Welcome to SteeleWatching, which is a podcast for Remington Steele fans. My name is Sara. Sara. Wow. I don't know my own name. My name is Sara, and I'm from Sector B, Yellow Division, 2nd Assistant Management, Division of Logistics and Redundancies.
Okay. I presume that that's going to be explained later on, as is mine. I'm Eric, and I've never... what's the line? I can't think of it. I didn't write it down. I can't think of it. I've never made a secret of the fact that basically I'm on my way to Australia. There we go.
Fair enough. Mine was a reference to all the bureaucracy in the episode, all the clearance and...
Mine is a reference to a particular scene.
Gotcha. Okay.
Indirectly.
Is there anything we need to talk about before we get into this lovely fan favorite episode? Sorry, trying to keep a straight face.
No, not that I can think of.
Cool. The universe
Other
wants
than
us to...
the fact that I'm not a fan of Stephanie's hair in this episode, but that's
before or after she goes through the wind tunnel.
Well, afterwards is understandable, but beforehand, no.
That's fair enough. I would say after the wind tunnel is not really her fault.
No. So anyway, I don't think we've got anything to do before that. So. All
right. Well, I guess the universe just wants us to dive right into this gem.
Yes.
So we are going to be talking about Season 4, Episode 22, The Infamous Bonds of Steele, or the episode that jumped the shark. However you want to see it. The episode first aired on May 10th, 1986, and it was written by Jeff Melvoin and directed by Seymour Robbie. So Seymour's back. There were some notes in Judith's book that I wanted to kind of point out. And I mean, this is something that we would note anyway, but the second appearance of Nancy Everhard, who was Clarissa, the call girl from Steele and the Family. But interestingly, I've come across her in 2 other shows since we started this podcast, and probably had seen her in these things before and just never clocked it. But she plays a rival, one of Lois Lane's sort of former college rivals in Lois and Clark. And she had a semi-regular role on the TV series Everwood, which was kind of like a teen drama circa mid-2000s-ish, where it was about a neurosurgeon who moved to this little out of the nowhere town in Colorado after his wife passed away, and his kids have to get used to no longer being in New York, but being in this tiny little town. And she played the mother of a boy who had been in a car accident, was in a coma, that he was trying to save. So it's interesting just that I was like, oh, hey, wait a minute. I know her. That's Clarissa the Hooker. Except, not. So this is the second time she appears. And it says here as well, the original script contained a scene in which Laura hears that Remington is planning to marry Clarissa and tells him, if you're going to marry anybody, it's to be me. Both Stephanie and Pierce shot down the scene, and it was replaced with the think of something scene. So that's kind of interesting that that they would take that out and replace it with what they replaced it with. So I don't know how I feel about that, frankly. I honestly genuinely don't know how I feel about that. So that says something, because usually I have a pretty definite opinion. Yeah,
I think in the context of the last 4 seasons, it would have made sense.
Yeah. But, maybe I do know what I think about it.
But I guess I can see Pierce and Stephanie's position on it, because supposedly this was going to be the final episode of the series, and they didn't want to be hokey and, okay, well, final episode, we're going to marry him for real. And
well, that was another question that I had, because and maybe some other fans will know more about the timing here, but had it been announced that they were being renewed when this episode was filmed is what I would like to know. Because if it hadn't been announced that they were getting renewed, that they really did think this was the last episode, that's a crappy way to end a TV series.
I don't think that's the appropriate question here, because I think the discussion between Stephanie and Pierce and Michael Gleason or whoever was on the production side of it with regard to that particular scene, that probably took place quite a bit before it was filmed. And
Mm-hmm.
so, that discussion was over and done. They'd already decided that they weren't going to include that. And then like the network came along and said, oh yeah, well, we're going to get you 6 more episodes next year. So I think they made some minor adjustments probably after that point, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I was just curious in general when they filmed this episode because, like, if that really was intended to be the final scene of the series, that's a really crappy way to end it, just in general, because it is technically a cliffhanger, and they're not. Not that every show has to have a happily ever after, but that's kind of a miserable ever after. That last shot is really not something that I think people would have
it
wanted.
kept the myth going though of the fake guy with the fake marriage, and so. I
guess I had
see
already
them wanting to keep that.
I guess I had always assumed that by the time that was filmed, their contracts had already been renewed, and they knew they were going into 6 more episodes, and that was the jumping off point. But again, I could be wrong, and I don't know. So I'm wondering if there's anyone out there that knows, let us know, because it's something I've always wondered. I've always wondered, was this filmed before they got sucked back in, or was this filmed after? Because it kind of changes how the writers. It kind of changes my perspective on it.
I think that generally speaking, and I'm just going from an impression here based on everything I've read about television and their process and such, that the deadline for renewing a show is generally before the last episode films.
Right.
How far in advance of that, I don't know. Or is that always the case? I don't know. But I'm going to say I would think that they had an idea that it was going to go on at this point.
Yeah.
But
interestingly enough, my husband and I have been going through all the James Bond movies, starting with Connery and going, like, watching all of them. And last night, we got up to Brosnan. Like, last night we did GoldenEye. That was, it's kind of like precipitous that it timed out the way it did. And it was funny to kind of like watch it with this episode being the next day. Like, here's what he would have looked like had he played Bond in 86, and here's what he looked like in 95. And honestly, I think it was a good call to have him wait a bit, because he's clearly more sort of confident and mature in the part in 95. In 86, I think he was still in that sort of slapsticky, in his early 30s. He's young, right? So,
well, I think his appearance also was more appropriate for the Bond character when he finally got it than it would have been in 86.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, I was just, those were the 2 notes there. And then as well, that vigilante insurance is replaced with vigilance. So we've got those little notes that were added. So the TV guide listing is what I went with because, and this is because when we talked about the episode where Clarissa first appears, the TV guide listing went out of its way to avoid calling her a prostitute or a call girl or a hooker or anything like that. And I thought it was maybe because they were hesitant to do so because it would be improper or whatever. But they're not hesitant to do so here, because the TV guide listing reads, Laura has her hands full with a case while Steele is making plans to marry a call girl.
Well, I think in the context of this, then, that suggests that the earlier reference to Clarissa, or the avoidance of referencing her as a call girl in the TV guide, was a way of keeping the suspense, keeping the secret.
Yeah, fair enough. It's just kind of funny because it was like, okay. I'm going to go back and forth between the script and my notes here, because the script is pretty, I don't usually do that. Like, I'll usually use the script to kind of point out differences, but the script is pretty faithful. However, I do love some of the descriptions in the script. So, so I'll kind of be playing around with that. But we start off, the first scene is actually kind of curious, because we start off with Steele in the limo traveling down a road. He's checking his watch and the phone rings. He picks it up and he announces himself, which is good because we haven't seen his face yet. And he tells whoever's on the other end that there will be a slight change of plans. He has to meet a client with Miss Holt, and they'll have to push back everything back an hour. In front of the limo, we can see the rabbit. Why do you think they took separate cars? I don't think we've ever seen them do that.
I think thou art hallucinating, because that is not the rabbit.
Oh, well, she's not in the car with him, though.
I know, but that's not the rabbit. I'm pretty positive that is not a Volkswagen Rabbit in front of him. And if it is, it would just be a matter of coincidence that he happened to be coming from someplace else and wind up behind her.
I thought that was the rabbit. I
No.
must have.
Because it's
Okay,
not a
well-
convertible. Unless it's something that you're talking about that's way, way, way up in front of the limo, like blocks away. No, the car that's immediately in front of him. I'll take a wild guess. I'm going to say that's more like a Fiat or something like that.
Oh, okay. I obviously I'm not good with cars, so I just saw a white car.
Have you ever thought about getting glasses?
You know what? I'd have a retort, but I can't say it here. So it starts with a 4-letter word and ends with U. You fill in the blanks. Anyway.
You wonderful
So
you. No.
That, I guess, answers my question, that they're just meeting there. Interestingly, we haven't seen much of the Auburn at all this season.
No, we haven't.
And I wonder if it has to do with their ability to use the, like, I assumed that they just had the car for use on the show, but maybe they could only get it for certain, like, maybe it was rented or something. I don't know. It just seems
I'm guessing
odd
it was not a real Auburn, first of all.
Okay.
It was a kit car.
Right.
Second of all, I mean, we know that it keeps going into the shop
Yeah.
for various
Sticky
reasons.
lifters.
You know, it breaks down, it's stolen and stripped for parts.
Yeah, but so does
name
the rabbit, and they keep using that. So
Well, yeah, but see, that's Laura's car,
Yeah.
and the Auburn is Steele/Mildred's car. So
Fair.
it's not as important, you know.
yeah. Anyway, that was just a little footnote because
Mhm.
Well, I think the last time we saw it was Steele in the spotlight. I don't think we've seen it after that. So, yeah. So we see a huge. He asks if they can do. If they can do that, like meet later, and the answer
Right.
must be yes because he says Splendid, hangs up, and tells Fred to go faster. And then I want to read the description for a unit for the building.
Okay.
Because the script calls Unidac, it says, a sprawling complex of modern buildings protected by high chain link fences and guardhouses at the gates. A prominent sign at the main gate sports a space-age logo and the words Unidac Corporation, where the future begins.
The company that
Which
gets
is-
things done.
Yeah, right? Like, because we don't actually know what this company is or what they're supposed to be doing.
No.
Which is kind of funny because that's the whole case. That's the whole center of the case as well. This project that does
Mhm.
not exist. And it's also the whole thesis of the show. A man that does not exist, that Laura has created. He's basically an empty file folder.
That's a good way to put it.
Like he's Project Omega, but on, a smaller scale. So it's really quite funny to see these layers added here. We've got this company, we have no idea what they do. We've got this project that doesn't really exist, and we've got Steele and Laura figuring that out, with Steele as basically that sort of symbolic stand-in for that. So I will give the writers some credit for that, because as frustrating as this episode is, there are some amusing points to it, and that's one of them. So then, and I'm going to read from the script for this opening sequence too, because it was really well described. We've got, over a long empty corridor, it is early morning, no one yet at work. Production note: due to the high security, everyone at Unidac wears ID badges. Different colors signify different security clearances. A brief series of shots helps establish both the vastness of Unidac and the quiet of the hour. So we've got a large empty secretarial pool area, another long corridor, the president's office, empty, immaculately appointed, several models of missiles, so I'm guessing it says satellites and spacecraft, discreetly displayed. The only sound, the gurgling from a saltwater aquarium. Then we've got the lobby, silent, waiting. Close in on a time clock, reading 8:59. With an abrupt click, the minute hand jumps a notch, 9 o'clock. All hell is about to break loose.
Well, okay, here's my question. How is it that everybody all the elevator doors just happen to open right at 9 o'clock and everybody just comes? That's not the real world.
No,
that's
it
a
isn't,
Hollywood.
I think that's deliberate, though. I think it's deliberately meant to satirically kind of mock corporate culture. That whole concept of 9 to 5, you get there right at 9, you punch out at 5, and you're done. Like, I don't think the writers were trying to imply that is real life, because we all know it isn't. People show up early, people show up late. Like, you wouldn't have hordes of people in the elevator just bursting to leave. But I do think it's very much kind of mocking that.
And the only way that the doors to all the elevators would open all together exactly at 9 o'clock is if there was some master switch and some guy said, okay, everybody get in. We're going to take the elevator up to the floor where you're going to get off, and we're just going to hold you there.
Yeah.
And make you wait until 9 o'clock before we open the doors. And we control the doors.
I definitely think it's sort of mocking the rigidity of structure and the sort of adherence to corporate policy. You get here at 9. You don't get here a minute before 9 because your shift starts at 9, so you get here at 9, right? So, but then we've got this series of shots, crisply edited, showing another bureaucratic workday, exploding into life at Unidac, the movement and noise almost overpowering. Elevator doors open and a stream of people charge out. Coffee drips from an automatic maker into a pot. Many pairs of feet march down a hallway. Plastic covers are whisked off computer terminals. More people burst from clogged elevators. Hands dial telephones. More feet march in the opposite direction from before. A hand knocks over a styrofoam cup of coffee on a desktop. Styrofoam cup of coffee, sorry. More people emerge from elevators. A computer screen blinks into life. Good morning. How are we today? Apparently that's what the computer says.
Yes. It's a very friendly computer.
It is, yeah. Truck with a young male clerk pushing a cart down a long aisle between secretarial stations on one side and executive offices on the other, hidden behind frosted glass doors. The secretaries, all busily engaged at computer terminals or telephones, take the mail matter-of-factly and keep working, all but one, Alessandra Henry, and she's described as a bright, attractive, but disheveled and slightly wacky blonde, late 20s, who stares dumbly at her computer terminal, her mind 1,000 miles away. A dog-eared copy of The Brothers Karamazov lies on the desk. Hold on Alessandra as the mail clerk places a small pile of mail on her desk, moves on with a raised eyebrow. The woman clearly has a problem. So I just like that description of her, the dumb but wacky blonde, because she's obviously not dumb. She's going for her PhD, but she's still kind of like all over the place. So
yeah, but that's kind of the stereotype of a blonde. And and the way she comes off when we get to meet her is that she is a little bit wacky.
Yeah, for sure. The wacky part fits 100%.
Yes. And definitely disheveled. Yes.
Yeah. And she has appeared on the series before because I pointed it out when we saw her first show up, and I now can't remember where, which is ironic. But I do remember that you were like, no, that's not her. And I'm like, no, that's definitely her. And then I looked it up and I was right. And I've already forgotten which episode it was, but this is her second appearance too. So yeah, if anybody remembers, feel free to tell me because I have a memory of a goldfish. 3 seconds around the bowl and I'm going, hey, look, a castle. Hey, look, a castle.
I wish I had a memory of a goldfish. No, definitely not.
Anyway, her phone rings and she kind of jumps out of her skin. She answers at Mr. Burnett's office and tells whoever it is that Mr. Burnett will have to cancel for today. Whoever is on the other line asks about Thursday. She says, let me check, covers the receiver for a few seconds, obviously doesn't actually check because she knows she can't, and then returns the call and tells them that Thursday would be fine and hangs up. She looks anxiously at her boss's office door, and behind her, Steele's voice addresses her as Alessandra Henry. She turns and he introduces...
Steele.
Ah, okay, yes, that's right. Thank you. It's going to bug me.
That was courtesy of Judith Moose's book, Steele Loved After All These Years.
Thank you, Judith.
Yay!
But yeah, so she turns and he introduces both himself and Laura. They both have on blue tags that say visitor on them, so that's obviously color coding them as visitors. Her face breaks out into a huge relieved smile, and she says, thank God. Laura prompts her to tell them what's wrong by reminding her that she said it was urgent. So she asks them to follow her, gets up, and unlocks the door to her boss's office. They enter, and so the script here is quite funny as well, because it says... Close on David Burnett, seated in his chair, head down on his desk, a letter opener sticking out of his back. Decidedly dead. I always like it when they're like, quite dead or really dead. I don't know that there's degrees to dead, but he's decidedly dead.
Apparently there are, because everybody keeps giving these, on a scale of 1 to 10, how dead is he type things. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So he's decidedly dead, which is more than a little dead, I guess, and less than a lot dead. I don't know. So yeah, they see the letter opener in his back, and Steele comments that urgent was an apt description, and Laura starts to say, this man is, but Alessandra cuts her off. I know.
Urgent probably really wasn't an apt description because
okay, yeah.
them getting there any sooner or any later wouldn't have made a difference. He's still dead.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Unless before this he was not quite decidedly dead.
Well, I don't know. It decidedly implies he's been there for a while, but yeah. Laura asks her why she didn't call the police. And Alessandra says, because I killed him. And then realizing how that sounds, she amends her statement saying it looks like she killed him. She says that that's her letter opener. And then she goes over and shows him the computer monitor screen, which has a note supposedly from her boss saying he can't do this anymore and he's going back to his wife. She tries to delete. She's pressing the button. She says, I can't delete it. It's locked in the main computer somehow. And I don't remember enough about 80s computers to know if that was possible. But do you? Was it possible to have just a message on there that you can't get rid of?
I believe there was a way that you could disable the keyboard.
Okay.
So the keyboard on his computer or on his terminal would be disabled. So hitting the keys on it, the computer would just simply ignore it.
Right. She could still turn it off, though, could she not?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or unplug it?
But, yeah, depending on how the computer's set up, it could just be that when they turn it back on, it would come right back up to that.
Fair enough. But, yeah, it doesn't look good either way. It looks real bad. No. Yeah. So, yeah.
Decidedly bad.
Decidedly bad, yes. And so Laura kind of says, slow down, and asks if she and Burnett were having an affair, and she insists that they weren't. She says that there were rumors that he had a bad marriage and that she was someone to talk to, a friend. And the look between them, they don't believe her. And to be fair, I don't blame them, because that's usually the excuse that people who are having he had a bad marriage. Friends. I was someone to talk to. We're just friends. Okay, sure.
Friends with benefits, but still just friends.
And I mean, even if they weren't physical, that description alone kind of sounds like an emotional affair. A little bit. Maybe not on her part, but at least on his. Because, I don't know. Boss, subordinate, telling her all his marital problems, it just feels like a stepping over some boundaries. Yeah. Either way, I mean...
give me some support. Make me feel better about it all. Yes. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds... I mean, if they hadn't been having an affair, maybe Burnett was working towards that, is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But she asks Steele and Laura if he looks like her type, and Steele he tilts his head. I like the physical, he tilts his head, and he's like, well, it's hard to tell at this angle. Laura tells her to go on, and she says that last night he called her and told her something strange was going on here. She says he wanted to meet early to talk about it, and she came in, and there he was, and then she...
Okay, so how did she get up there if nobody was there before 9
that's
o'clock?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, because the implication from what we saw is that the elevators are turned off before 9 o'clock or a couple of minutes before 9 o'clock. Now, granted, they usually have stairs, but you'd think they would have some sort of security on them. So yeah, I mean, okay, doesn't quite fit, but okay.
We're supposed
hand
to
wave.
Yeah, we're just gonna do.
I'll do the hand wave because we've got wedding dresses in this. So no.
Okay, is there a sweater fetish as well as a wedding dress fetish? Is this?
I didn't say.
Is this a thing?
I didn't say that.
Okay, but yeah, she says he was skewered, and then I love that description too. Decidedly dead. Stabbed could have worked, but no, we went with skewered. Remington checks his watch. We see Steele checking his watch, and then he says, "Excuse us," and pulls Laura aside, and then cites the film "They Won't Believe Me." Laura says, "Who won't?" And he says, "Robert Young, Susan Hayward, RKO, 1947." Young tries to disguise the death of his girlfriend, and she interrupts him with, "You think she's lying?" And Steele kind of hems and haws and says, well, in Robert Young's case, and Laura points out, if I were a killer, I don't think I'd call in a pair of hotshot detectives to investigate, but they've done that before.
Mm-hmm.
We've had that happen before, so it's not that out of the realm. They've been hired several times by the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, I get that he's jumping to a conclusion himself, but so is she.
Yes.
They're both kind of jumping to, yeah. Steele says there's no harm in provoking a conversation, and this is the second time she calls him Phil Donahue because she says,
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah,
she says somebody has a thing for Phil Donahue.
I think so. I think Laura's really, really enjoying Phil Donahue.
Well, I think some of the writers have a thing for Phil Donahue.
Yeah, she looks back at Alessandra and asks if she knew what he wanted to talk about when he said something strange was going on. Alessandra admits this whole place is strange and that she's only working there until she finishes her dissertation on Dostoevsky. So I looked up Dostoevsky because I know who he is roughly, but I was curious, and I'm not gonna be able to pronounce the rest of his name. Fyodor Mikhailiev. I'm sorry if anybody here is Russian. I apologize. But he was a Russian philosopher, novelist, short story writer, essayist, and journalist. He's regarded as one of the greatest novelists in both Russian and world literature, and many of his works are considered highly influential masterpieces. His literary works explore the human condition in the troubled political, social, and spiritual atmospheres of 19th century Russia. So his most notable books that we would kind of recognize, I think mainly would be Crime and Punishment. But there's also The Idiot, Demons, The Adolescent, The Brothers Karamazov, and Notes from Underground. So that's kind of who he is, and that kind of gives us her background of
what is she studying exactly? I'm going to presume she's studying Russian literature or something like that.
She says later that she's studying literature, yeah. So,
yeah, you're right. She does say that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that basically what she's doing is studying to be a barista at Starbucks.
Well, it depends on what you're going to do with that. Like, you could become a professor yourself with a PhD.
So you're going to spend all this money to get a PhD to get a job as a teacher because that seems like it's circular. Well, we're going to study literature. Why? Well, so we can teach literature.
Well, I'm not saying that's the only thing you could do, but that would be one of the things she could do with it. I don't know. I personally think that it's worthwhile. Coming from an English teacher, it is worthwhile to study literature.
Well, it is, but I mean, to get a PhD in literature, I mean that's.
Well, where do our academic texts come from? Where do we sort of like look at things like symbolism but it's not just studying the literature itself. It's looking at the social and political context that the book
people can do that without spending 10 years getting a piece of paper. And in fact, they used to do that before these Ivy League, $100,000 a year universities existed.
Well, I mean, I think there's valid to academia, like validity to it. I think it's important to have courses that can guide people through these things, like, because it's not just literature itself. You're looking at, like I said, social political context surrounding impact that it has on culture, and there needs to be sort of leaders in this field. And sure, people can be autodidactic and study it on their own, but we also have texts that we look at and go by, and those are the people that get their PhDs, publish their works, allow people to other people to read their works, and then publish their own works.
Regurgitate.
No, because
how about studying it for yourself? Forget what the so-called experts say that learned to regurgitate from their instructors, who learned to regurgitate from their instructors, and just study it on your own and learn.
It's not, though, because I took a lot of literature courses in university, obviously. It's not just regurgitating what your professor says. You're providing new ideas and sort of furthering the conversation. We actually had my university was kind of unique in the sense that I don't know if other universities do this in the States or anything, but in Ontario, it was the only one that required anybody in the humanities to not just take a lecture course. Like if you were to take, say, for example, 18th century literature, you wouldn't just be sitting in a lecture hall. You had to have a seminar as well. And the seminars were smaller groups. They were like 10 people. So they'd have a bunch of seminars, and they would all be manned by either TAs or, if you got really lucky, the professor themselves. And you'd have your weekly lecture, but you'd also have your semi-weekly seminars, or like 2 a week usually, where you'd go in and you've read whatever story it is, and you sit in a small group and dissect it and talk about it. And yeah, a lot of the time you are kind of like going against what the reading says, or you're arguing a different perspective or looking at it.
But only for show, because I go back to, and this isn't related to literature, but it is related to the same point. The guy that founded FedEx, that was his thesis in college. He was failed by his professor for the thesis because it wouldn't work.
Yeah, I'm not saying that
Because
like every professor is
everybody was just regurgitating, they might dress it up a little bit, make it look a little bit different, take a slightly different argument on one key point. But, basically it was the same thing over and over again. And that's the way colleges are. I mean, if you don't toe the line, you don't graduate. Anyway.
I would push against that because I didn't toe the line a lot in university and I still managed to graduate. So somehow
we're not talking about your partying.
No, I'm trust me, I'm not either. Anyway, this is what she's getting her PhD in.
Yes.
So Steele asks what her boss, and I wonder how she's like. This is a 9 to 5. When is she going to school? When is she doing her like? Yeah, but this is a PhD is not typically a part-time thing. It's usually something that you're devoting pretty much all your time to.
Well, what about summer courses for PhDs?
I don't know how common those are. Here I know because I knew several people that were going for their PhD, and it's more because you're not only studying, you also have to be TAing and teaching, as well as publishing works yourself. Like you have to publish. Like
maybe she's job sharing.
It just seems weird to have her be a full-time secretary and going for her PhD, but maybe you can do it part-time in the 80s. I don't know. This is different world. So,
but I mean, there are people that certainly the people that do it are older. They've been out of school for a long time, but there are people who go back in their 40s and 50s and 60s and get advanced degrees. And presumably they are having to still pay the bills. So
yeah, that's true.
There's got to be some way of doing it. I just don't know what it is. Here,
I think there is some, like you do have a salary if you're PhD. I don't know. I could be. I didn't get my PhD, so I could be blowing smoke here. But anyway,
that explains all the parties.
Steele asks what her boss did, and she says, procurement division, middle level associate cost accountant. And then she shrugs. I was never sure exactly what he did. And this is like. This made me think of Friends, the TV show Friends. Mm-hmm. So not a Buffy reference, but if you've ever seen the show Friends,
no.
All of the characters in the show, it was a running joke that they had these beautiful upscale Manhattan apartments, and none of them really had jobs that should have been able to afford a beautiful upscale Manhattan apartment. Like Monica was a part-time chef. She says her grandmother left her the apartment as a sublet, but it still doesn't really explain how she was able to afford it. And then Rachel, who lives with her, worked as a waitress at the coffee house. Phoebe, we don't really ever know what Phoebe did as far as I'm aware. Joey was like a struggling out of work actor. Later on in the series, he manages to get
that's a very profitable job.
Yeah. Well, he lives across the hall with Chandler, right? And then he, later on in the series, manages to get a work on a soap opera. But at the beginning, for the first few seasons, he's like barely scoring any kind of acting work. And Chandler goes to work at an office job, which is a 9 to 5. And it was a running joke in the series that nobody knew what Chandler did at all. Like they could never. And there was even an episode where they ended up having this trivia contest. The only one that had a sort of a grown-up job was Ross, who was a paleontologist, but he didn't live in that building. So you can kind of understand why he would have, like, he had a prestigious job at a university. He could he could afford his apartment. But there's one episode where they have this like trivia battle for Monica's apartment. Whoever wins gets to get their apartment, basically. So if the boys won, they'd have to switch. And one of the questions was, what does Chandler do for a living? And none of them knew. And I think Rachel ended up saying, he's a transponster. And he's like, a what? So obviously the girls lost. The boys had to switch their apartments. And they actually did switch the sets so that the boys were living in their apartment for a while and they were living in the other one for a while. But this made me think of that. I was like, he's a transponster. That's what he does.
Well, I mean, you look at the title, Procurement Division, Middle Level Associate Cost Accountant. Okay, so he has something to do with numbers and cost accounting, but the rest of it is just kind of like one of those titles. Well, we're going to make it sound, really impressive, but in reality, your job is you're a janitor.
It's corporate speak gobbledygook, which is that's what I was sort of joking about when I announced that I was Sector 7 level, whatever. It's also Scott's job because Scott, I have always been joked that he is Chandler. I've been married to him for like 16 years now and do not know what he does. I don't understand. I like to joke that he sits on the couch because he works from home and he types and he sighs in annoyance, and that's his job. He's just like type, 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 type. Because like I see spreadsheets, I see emails, I don't know what he's doing with them, but there's numbers involved. So
have you noticed anybody following you or watching you suspiciously? No. Black cars behind you when you go to the store.
No, but one thing I did notice, and completely unrelated to this, but I thought you would get a kick out of it given your hatred for them, is we drove by a gym the other day, and there was a sign outside the gym that said, our geese are gone, you are safe. It's the most Canadian sign I've ever seen. So I'm wondering if like there was a nest in the parking lot and people were like avoiding it because the geese were getting bitey. But yeah, this big sign, our geese are gone, you are safe.
Canadian geese.
Anyway. So yeah, that's what he does, which makes no sense. And then Laura looks around and she finds a key under Burnett's shoe. She lifts it and she reads the number out loud, G949. She says it's possible that Burnett was trying to hide from whoever killed him. Steele agrees, and Alessandra tells her that would be Building G, room 949. Laura asks what goes on there, but Alessandra admits she doesn't know what goes on down the hall. Again, another sort of dig at corporate culture, right? So Laura says, well, shall we, Mr. Steele? And as they walk towards the door, she panics. What about Dave? Steele opens the door and sees how busy it is outside, closes it, and says, well, I'd vote against moving him for the nonce. Alessandra protests, saying, well, we can't just leave him here. And Laura smiles and says, why not? Mr. Burnett's a very busy man. So the two walk out the door loudly saying goodbye to Dave, and Alessandra tells him that she thinks she's going to throw up. Her phone rings. Laura tells her just pretend it's business as usual. She picks up the phone and answers, telling the caller that Mr. Burnett is in conference right now and can they get back to him. Laura gives her a thumbs up and they leave. And honestly, this shouldn't be this hard. I mean, secretaries put people off all the time. You know.
Well, it's not that. It's as she references later. It's like the telltale heart. You know, she knows what's back there, and in her mind, so does everybody else. Yeah.
So no, I get it. It was just kind of like a joke about the. So we see them walking down the hall, and again, he's checking his watch as they're looking for this building, and obviously this is kind of like building this up. She says to him, she notices him checking his watch, and she's, are you in a hurry? We've been doing that all morning. He says, oh, it's just running slow. They pass room 948 and turn a corner.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
When, where, and how did Steele get plans for the building? I mean, if this is supposedly such a secure facility, more importantly, such a secure facility running a scam for an office that is associated with a project that doesn't exist and the office doesn't exist, who gave him the plans? Nobody was going to give him the plans.
Fair enough. Yeah.
It wouldn't happen.
I found this kind of funny. Just this, like, the numbers go up to 948 and then they go back to 901. Going back to my university, this reminds me of the Mackenzie Chown complex at Brock University. Because this, and I think I've mentioned this one before, was the most ridiculously designed building. The layout makes no sense. And I just Googled because I was curious to see if I could find anything just on this complex. And what Google said, the AI overview. No, this is funny. This is funny because, like, normally I avoid the AI overview and I just click on the websites below. But the AI overview says, if you are trying to find an empty room or specific room number, you are likely running into the complex's infamous maze-like layout. Here's why Mackenzie Chown at Brock University is so notoriously difficult to navigate and use. The maze-like layout, fragmented blocks. The complex stretches across multiple blocks, A through J, that do not connect on every floor. This is true. Disconnected paths. You cannot walk in a straight line from one end to the other on all levels. You need to take specific stairwells, follow different block letters, or use elevators to reach the floor you want. Also true. Hidden entrances. Room numbers do not always follow sequentially. It is highly recommended to follow the wall diagrams in the stairwells and corridors rather than guessing your way through. And then it says here, I found a Reddit thread. There's so many Reddit threads from people that aren't able to find anything. Somebody wrote, I have a question in MCC 400. Can anyone explain where this is or how to get there? And various responses. Hard to describe in a comment section, but it's C block on level 4 of the building. No, I can't. Context. I'm a third year undergrad. You can also enter from the outside.
Been there for 3 years and still can't find the room.
This is the thing. Like this, somebody wrote, enter the interdimensional transport located under Schmann Tower. So I just wanted to point out that this line here just made me think of this scene where they come up to 948 and then it goes back to 901. I'm like, oh, they're in MacChown. I totally understand why they can't find the room. So yeah, I'm sorry anyone who knows Brock University. If you do, you know. If you know, you know. But yeah, so the room numbers don't make any sense. This person on a scooter drives by as Laura attempts to ask for directions. She sarcastically says she's beginning to fall in love with the place and asks another woman where G949 is. The woman tells her not her department to check building facilitation. Because, of course, this is another common corporate issue. This isn't my department. Check this department. Oh, no, check this department. Oh, no, check this department. And by the end,
it's also very much like unionism. In television, they would be very familiar with this because you've got all these highly specialized divisions of unions and we need this thing moved from here to here. Well, I can't do that because it's a prop and I'm not in the props division. But the same thing in a different context, I can move it because now it's no longer a prop. Now it's whatever. It's just
fair enough.
It can be ridiculous.
So this woman says not her department, check building facilitation, and Steele says sounds almost obscene. Then we're at building facilitation. A man pulls up a blueprint of the corridor and the room appears. Laura tells him they were just there and there is no 949. The man tells her that's impossible. If the room's on the computer, it's there. Steele suggests he comes and see for himself.
This is the problem I have with so many people using computers in like customer service and such. The computer says it, so it must be true. And if reality doesn't match what the computer says, then reality is wrong.
Yeah. Well, this is still a thing. Like we're still doing this.
Oh yeah.
40 years
and it's
later,
getting worse. Actually,
it's getting worse. A lot worse because you can like physically show somebody. You can say, "Look, this is the thing that you're saying isn't a thing," and people will be like, "Yeah, but it says so here." So social media told me it is, so I'm going to believe that instead of like
now it's AI says this.
AI. Oh my! Don't even. Oh. I realize I just read the AI overview for that. But I have
we did that for laughs.
We did that for laughs. I have demonstrated to my students multiple times where I'll ask it something very simple about something we've read or studied or looked at, and it'll give me a completely wrong and very bizarre answer. And they still try to use it, and I'm always able to pick it out because I'm like, that doesn't happen in the play. That's a completely different thing that it's referring to. Like, it's so easy to screw up with AI as your quote-unquote source. So it drives me nuts when I see people relying on it for information because it's not accurate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm trying to... Oh, yeah. It was in this episode when I was doing some research, and I sent you a message on this. I did a Google search because later in the episode there's a mention of Ilsa Lund, and I'm positive that there was another episode
before somewhere. I don't
where she was mentioned before, but I can't think of it. I couldn't think of it, so I did a Google search, and I asked what Remington Steele episodes mentioned Ilsa Lund, and Google's answer was Ilsa Lund, Ingrid Bergman's character from the classic film Casablanca. Okay, so far we're correct.
Sure, yeah.
Is explicitly mentioned in the season 1 episode Chain of the Tiger. In this episode, Laura answers a trivia question about Casablanca by naming Ilsa Lund. Given that Laura's obsession with 1940s and 1950s cinema is a major pillar of the show's identity, Casablanca as a whole is frequently alluded to throughout the series, though Ilsa herself is referenced directly here. It's like, okay, there's little bits and pieces of this are correct, but mostly it's garbage.
You put it together and it looks like a Picasso.
Well, it looks like a Picasso that's been run over by garbage truck.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, they're pointing out that there is no building, or that they were there and there is no 949. The man says that's impossible. If the room is on the computer, it's there. Steele suggests they come and see it for himself. The man says, well, he can't do that. That's building coordination, not building facilitation.
Of course.
Wow.
Of course.
So Laura asks if he can at least tell her what it is they do in this non-existent room. He presses a few buttons and tells her that information is classified. Red flag. She starts to ask another question when Steele behind him lifts a book that says computer codes and puts it in his jacket. She asks who they can see to get more information, and this is where he starts to get suspicious. He asks her who authorized them to make these requests, and Laura, this is, again, the bureaucratic gobbledygook is what I appreciate here. Because who authorized you to make, or to ask these, she says, never mind, Central Cosmat probably gave us the wrong directions. ComSat. Central ComSat? What? What the what?
It just sounds technical, so it's got to be correct. I mean, who's going to question?
Guess. Sure.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing, is that you can throw this kind of gobbledygook out, and it makes absolutely no sense and has no relationship to reality, but people won't challenge it because they're afraid of looking foolish by not knowing something that they think that they're supposed to know.
Yeah, fair enough.
So,
so yeah, he Central ComSat, and then she thanks him and they leave. Back in the main office, Laura says Burnett was right. Something strange is going on. They stop and watch as a blonde woman in gray knocks on Burnett's door, and the door opens. Steele groans and says they may be too late to figure it out. We watch as Alessandra comes out of the office and loudly says, "Right you are, sir," with a pot of coffee. The other blonde woman points at the door and announces herself as the payroll supervisor, Orange Division. Orange Division, okay. She says she needs to see Burnett. Alessandra says,
I'm sorry,
Burnett...
he's in the grapefruit division, so you can't come in.
He asked not to be disturbed. The woman insists that it's extremely important, and when Laura and Steele approach, she greets them with relief, telling them that Mr. Burnett's been expecting them. She says, "Please excuse us," and the woman walks off in a huff as Steele and Laura hurry into the room. Alessandra says she doesn't know if she can keep this up. Laura tells her they need to get back to the office to see if their resident computer expert can hack into the Unidac system. Steele asks if she can hold on for a few more hours, and she asks, well, do I have a choice? He gives her a gentle punch on the shoulder. So we get them at the office, and they're getting off the elevator. Again, still looking at his watch. He's preoccupied. She's reading the computer codes book. And then he basically, as he starts to exit the elevator, he kind of steps back and says, "Oh, should have been at the doctor's office half an hour ago." She asks him, well, is everything okay? And he quickly says, "Oh yeah, a few tests came back negative," which is...
That's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, he's not... And this is one of the things that I have an issue with this episode, and I know there's many, many more, is that he's really bad at hiding what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, not that he should be hiding it at all. He shouldn't be. Like, that's number 2.
But he's a professional con man. He should be better at lying.
This is really, like, really bad.
This is basic.
Like,
this is Con Man 101. No, not even 100 series. It's Con Man 025.
Exactly. Like, it's just, like, a few tests came back negative. That's going to make her ask questions. Why would you... I get that he's got a lot on his mind. And again, he shouldn't be hiding this at all, but dude.
Yeah.
He's been saying, I'm slipping throughout the entire series. This is proof, because a child could figure out something's going on, let alone Laura, who's pretty eagle-eyed when it comes to this stuff. So, and especially when he's pulling a fast one, right?
Oh, yeah.
She tries to ask questions. He shoos her away, saying he'll see her later, and gets on the elevator before she can further protest. She walks in the office, says good morning to Mildred, and Mildred isn't barely even looking at her. She's staring straight ahead.
Yeah, she's not happy.
Not impressed. Yeah, she reciprocates the greeting and then points towards someone off screen, who we figure out in a second is Norman Keyes, and says, "I told him to put it out." Norman Keyes, our favorite human.
Yes.
Someone in question is the late James Tolkien as Norman Keyes, who reminds them of who he is and who he works for, Vigilance Insurance. There's also a blonde woman. Okay, so you haven't seen any of the Lethal Weapon movies, have you?
No.
This woman, the actress who plays Estelle Becker, Mary Ellen Trainor, she's also in all 4 of the Lethal Weapon movies. And so she would have already been, because I think the first one had already come out by this point. I think they even referenced it in an episode, didn't they?
Was it Lethal Weapon? What was it that Stephanie had been signed to do? I thought that was...
Oh, that was RoboCop. Oh, no, it hadn't come out yet. Lethal Weapon hadn't come out yet. That was 1987. But yeah, she was supposed to be
and I think that's the one she was...
No, it was RoboCop.
Contracted to do, wasn't it?
It was RoboCop. Yeah. It definitely wasn't Lethal Weapon.
Hmm.
But either way, Stephanie Woods is her character on Lethal Weapon, and she plays the
No. It's that's I'm sure. Somebody send us in an email. I'm sure it was Lethal Weapon that she was signed to do, but anyway, not RoboCop.
I'm pretty sure it was RoboCop. Hold on.
Well, let's ask AI.
Yeah, she was cast as Murphy's partner, Ann Lewis. This is not from AI. This is from Wikipedia, and had to drop out because of contractual obligations to Remington Steele.
So, I was right?
RoboCop, not Lethal Weapon.
So I was right?
No, because you were saying it was Lethal Weapon.
Yes, so I was right. I'm not going to say I was wrong.
She was contracted to be...
I was wrong.
Okay. All right. Okay, I get what you're doing. All right. Either way, I'm talking about the actress playing Estelle Becker, who was in Lethal Weapon, all 4 Lethal Weapon movies, okay?
Okay.
Her character is hilarious in these films. She plays Stephanie Woods, a police psychiatrist. So her job in the films is to basically psychoanalyze the police officers and make sure that they're safe to be in the line of duty, essentially. Okay. And in the very first film, because the whole plot of the first film, the whole concept of the film is that Mel Gibson's character, who has just had his wife, his wife has just died, and he is psychologically not okay. And he was ex-special forces in Vietnam. He's like very, very, he's literally the Lethal Weapon in the series, right? He's highly trained, he's able to kill, and he's kind of on the edge. And when he comes in to partner up with Murtaugh, the other cop, she tries to talk to him as a psychiatrist. And he basically... throughout the entire series of films, every time she attempts to help him, he drives her crazier and crazier, to the point where in the 4th film, when he finally does go to her for help, like she legitimately wants to talk out his feelings and blah blah blah, she kind of like she snaps on him and she's like, no, because here's what's going to happen. We're going to go into my office and you're going to tell me that you want to marry Murtaugh. And he's like, what? And she's like, and then you're going to tell me this and this and this, and I'm just not interested. And she just like flips out on him, and as she's like storming away, he's like, no, I won't go out with you. She's like, argh! So like every time I see this actress, I get a kick out of it because she's so good at what she does. And in this, she's playing Estelle Becker. So yeah, I just wanted to point out this is the psychiatrist from Lethal Weapon movies.
Okay.
And she's not pleased to be around around Keys. Look at that.
Is anybody pleased to be around Keys?
Fair enough. He's pretty odious as a human being, and you can see it on her face. She tries to introduce herself, and then Keys talks over her. This is Estelle Becker. That's
just like, right? I know that's Keys. It's so much Keys, but it's just it makes you love Keys all the less.
Yeah, I know. He's just an awful, awful human.
Yes.
And that's why we love to hate him, because he's a really good antagonist. I'm not going to say he's a character that people love, but I think love to hate him. Yeah, exactly. So he asks Laura where Steele is, and she says out. Keys says he can see that and asks when he'll be back. Laura begins to tell him that they're in the middle of a case, but Keys interrupts and says that Estelle Becker has, again, she's not said a word yet because he's not let her. Estelle Becker has some business with your boss. She asks, what business? Estelle says that's privileged information, and she's polite, right? And she's right. This isn't information that she can give to Laura. And she just simply asks when he'll be back. Laura, not giving them anything, says, your guess is as good as mine. Estelle says, okay, we'll come back later. And then she apologizes for the intrusion, which is, again, polite. And obvious that she dislikes Keys as much as Laura.
Yes.
Keys then says to Laura, give Steele a message for me. You can run, but you can't hide. And then he blows smoke from his cigar in her face.
Yes.
And then cackles with malignant glee as they leave. What a complete beep.
Yes. complete donkey.
Yeah, I can't say the rest of what I want to say because it is not appropriate to say on this podcast, but that's what he is. So that's why I beeped it out. It is not, he's gross.
Yeah, he's not a nice man.
Although I do love Mildred's line next. That guy should be checked for rabies. That's good. She wonders what he wants with Mr. Steele, and Laura says she has no idea, but they have more important problems. She hands Mildred the code book, and Laura tells Mildred that there is a dead man sitting in an office at Unidac Corporation. The secret to his murder is tied to room G949. Laura says she needs her to access their computer and find out what it is that they do in that room.
And maybe find where the room is.
Yeah, right? If the room even exists. Mildred, with her trademark humility, says a computer system hasn't been built that can contain Krebs.
That makes me wonder, what exactly did Mildred really do at the IRS? Because clearly she was more than just your ordinary auditor. She's got computer superhuman super skills that a mere ordinary auditor wouldn't have. It's almost like she's working for a secret division of the IRS that actually has ties to the CIA. And
Orange Division. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. I love, and I know I've said this before, but I really love the fact that their computer expert is an older woman and not some young computer whiz, because the running joke, of course, when it comes to technology is that older people don't know what they're doing and young people are the ones that know everything about computers. And in this case...
And if you don't believe that, just ask a younger person.
Yeah, in this case, Laura and Steele, especially Steele. Laura has, I think, a little bit more knowledge of computers than Steele, but he can't find the enter key. He just he's sitting there totally confused.
But, There is that attitude, but the thing is, and I will agree that above a certain age, that is probably more true than not true.
Sure.
But there's this age in the middle between the 80-something plus and the, say, 30 or 40-something down. There's that group in the middle that grew up either at the very beginning of computers, or computers came into being as they were going through that growing up period. And quite frankly, some of us know more about computers and how they really actually work than some of the young people do, because a lot of the young people are, well, see, I can tap these keys, I can make this thing do all this magic and stuff. It's like, no, I can teach a monkey how to do that.
Yeah.
You don't know how the computer actually works internally.
Yeah.
But they think they're so smart because, well, see, I can punch a button and I can make it do this.
And I will freely admit that there are areas of computer stuff that you know far more about than I do. There's also a lot of stuff that I think that I'm pretty good at when it comes to figuring out or adapting or whatever it is, because I'm in that age range that I was born in the 80s. I was born in 82. I came of age as the technology did. And so and because of the field that I work in, we're constantly being handed a new program that we have to learn and that we have to use, and that, this is the new program the board is supporting. Oh, no, they got rid of that. Now they're doing this. Now they're doing this. And so we're constantly having to learn how to use all of these systems and softwares and whatever else. And my students, a good chunk of them don't know what the tab key is. And I wish I was kidding. But I had to teach a student the other day how to italicize something. I had no idea.
See, the thing is, it goes beyond just those kinds of things, though, because young people these days have this unerring faith in technology.
Yeah.
And computers are always right. They're never wrong. They never make a mistake.
Yeah.
And, of course, I grew up, and you were on the tail end of it, of the early days of home personal computing. And we know enough about computers not to trust them. For example, the Boeing 737 MAX was designed with a single point of failure for its angle of attack. And worse than that, it was a point of failure that was known to have a history of issues. But they had such faith in the technology that they didn't think about, well, maybe we ought to have a backup system. I mean, the accelerator in your new car has a backup system on it. Far more sophisticated than what the 737 MAX had, because it's got two sensors, and if they don't agree, the computer in your car says, we got a problem. We don't know what speed you're actually going. So it will basically shut the car down. 737 MAX and one angle of attack indicator. And if it's wrong, the computer acts as if it's correct. And that's one of the things that contributed to a couple of major 737 crashes early on. 737 MAX.
Wasn't there a ship that they said was unsinkable, so they didn't have enough lifeboats on it?
No, I think that's a myth.
That's a myth.
It was a science fiction movie, though. They called it Tantric. Tantric?
Well, that's a different movie entirely. But anyway, but yeah. So like, just this idea that Mildred, being this woman who most people would overlook, is so good with computers. I really just love it, especially in the 80s when, again, computers were not that common in people's homes. Like, we had one, we were early adopters of it because my dad was kind of like Mildred. He knew how to build them and he knew everything about how they worked and stuff like that. So I think people can stay on top of it if they continue to pay attention to and adapt to the technology. I don't think it's beyond people's scope, but a lot of people, if they don't need it for work or they only need it for certain things in their daily lives, it's not something that they'll continue to adapt to. So Mildred, she's pretty certain that she can figure this out. Laura says, great.
Well, this says something about Mildred because, as you said, people who don't see any immediate value to their work or their personal life don't pursue these things. But Mildred, I'm going to say that she was an auditor with the IRS, and she used computers, but she wasn't a hacker, so to speak, as she is now.
Yeah.
But she studied computers on her own because she probably saw, if I can get better at this, I can make myself more valuable. So I will become eligible for more promotions, to move into higher to jobs that have more authority and more level of expertise, that are more respected than just a mere auditor.
Yeah.
So I think she was thinking in advance and planning in advance.
Oh, for sure.
As you said, if they don't see an immediate value to it, a lot of people won't do it. They won't pursue it.
And this has become valuable for Remington Steele, for Laura and Steele and this whole organization, because a lot of this stuff is now so computer heavy that you have to have somebody that knows something about it. Yeah. I was listening to another podcast the other day, and they mentioned a podcast about it's a movie podcast called "This Couldn't Be Made with this movie wouldn't be made with cell phones," or something about how, like, they basically on this podcast would talk about how certain movies could never be made today because of cell phones. And so I just think this was the show acknowledging that computers were becoming more and more of a narrative plot point that you need to have and use them because that's kind of where things were at. So, and it changed very quickly between 1982 and 1986. So we've got Mildred. So she says, like, and then Laura says, I'll get started on my terminal. I'm not entirely sure what Laura was planning to do on her terminal, but she started for her office, then turns back and she asks, Mildred, did Mr. Steele mention anything to you about medical tests? And Mildred says, no. Why? Try not to think about it. So, and I'm gonna read the script of what she sees out the window, and then I'm gonna ask you how you feel about this, because the script says, okay, she gets to her computer, she goes to the window to retrieve her coffee cup from the sill. Something catches her eye out the window. We see Remington standing on a street corner waiting, checking his watch. Laura, puzzled. And then zoom in tight as a sporty red Porsche cabriolet with the top down pulls up to the corner, driven by the beautiful Clarissa from Steele and the Family. Exchanging smiles as Remington gets in, it says they kiss in a friendly fashion. Then Clarissa drives off. Is this a friendly? Do you kiss your friends this way? Out of curiosity, is this what you would call friendly?
Generally, I haven't, but then again, I don't have any friends. So,
if you did, would you kiss them like this? Would this be friendly? Or is this something else?
Well, I mean, it would certainly be friendly. I think I might know somebody that might object by doing that. But
I just, when I read this, I'm on the screen when they kiss. That's not friendly. That's not friendly. That's more than friendly. That is.
Yes, that is. Very friendly.
Yeah, exactly. And I
But
just...
here's my issues. I have issues.
Yeah.
First
Really?
of all, why is there a computer in front of the window? It's a bad place for it. It's, if you've got some good, clean skies, clear skies, bright sunshiny day, that sun is pointing right on that computer, getting it even hotter than it's already getting already. And it's kind of impractical to use it, especially when most of your time is going to be at your desk where the computer should probably be. And then also looking out of the window and seeing Steele and Clarissa, how would she know? Because they're on the 11th floor. We know this because it's suite 1157. And in a commercial building, that would put the floor roughly 145 to 165 feet high. There's no way she could tell who that was in that car. Or she couldn't even identify Steele from that height. Definitely not. No.
Okay.
Not buying
I don't know about that personally. I do know I'm on the 8th floor in my apartment building, and if I were to look down, I could definitely identify my husband waiting for someone. That being said, it might not be the same height, so not gonna argue with you on that one. Narratively, we need her to see it, so I guess that's where they're going with it. But
well, okay, even if you could identify your husband from that height, if somebody walked up to him and started talking to him, could you identify that person?
If I knew them, probably, but not if I didn't know them.
But not necessarily, though. But you put a probably on there, which
I said probably because I'm not sure.
There's some,
I can't say for certain.
Doubt there. Now you could say, okay, you would recognize your husband because you know him. You know how you know what he was wearing when he left. You know how he stands, how he moves. So you're not actually identifying him from like facial characteristics.
No.
You're identifying him based on your knowledge of him. Laura doesn't know Clarissa that well.
No.
How would she? No,
Again,
I'm not buying it. I mean,
it's a hand wave because we have to see that she sees. That's literally all it is.
It's a hand wave because there's wedding dresses. Yes,
but also, okay, why does he have to kiss her? Why was that necessary?
I guess he probably thinks he knows that he's in trouble with the immigration.
Yeah.
He knows Estelle Becker's on his case. He probably knows Keyes is on his case. And he may be suspecting that he's being observed and watched.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
Put on a show,
Fair enough. I'll have some questions about their arrangement later, but
yeah, there's lots of questions, but wedding dresses.
I need this explained when we get there. I really do.
Okay.
So Laura obviously she kind of jumps back and looks visibly upset, which she would because she literally just saw him jumping into a car and cheating on her. Mm-hmm. Right? So she walks in. He kissed another woman.
That presumes that they have a relationship strong enough and committed enough and exclusive enough that it would qualify as cheating. And I don't know that we've ever seen anything that says we're exclusive.
She says she's committed. She has said that before. And the two of them had that conversation in Insensitive Steele, I would argue, is pretty indicative of that.
Yeah, but
especially the conversation at the end.
There's plenty of room for wiggle, let's say.
No, I don't think there is. I think they're in a relationship and they're both aware of that. And that he knows if he were to cheat on her, then he's going to be in trouble. Like that's why he's lying to her.
I think that he probably views it as wiggle room. But anyway, okay. Fine,
well, he views a lot of things as wiggle room. We'll talk about that too. So yeah, she comes out and she's looking at Mildred. She's sort of lost in thought. And she says to him, and she's casually, that friend of your nephew's, the Latin tutor. Your nephew mentioned her these days? And Mildred laughs and says, every time he calls. Laura asks what she's up to these days, and Mildred says, UC Santa Barbara, tutoring her head off. Laura asks, has Mr. Steele mentioned her recently? And Mildred says, no. Something on your mind? And Laura says, no, but not very convincing. Just thinking of past cases. She starts to walk away when Mildred gasps and says she hit pay dirt. She tells Laura that room G949 is assigned to something called Project Omega. Laura asks what Project Omega is, and Mildred shrugs. She begins to press more buttons and tells her this could take a bit longer. Laura tells her to tell Mr. Steele that she went back to Unidac, and then she adds at the end, if he's still interested, which obviously she's not impressed.
Yeah.
And she should
That's
be.
a bit, from Mildred's perspective, that's a bit snarky in a very unexplained way. And it's like,
Yeah.
what?
And Mildred does sort of look at her curiously because she's. So then we have a scene change at Unidac. Laura is sitting with Alessandra, and Alessandra asks her where Mr. Steele is. Laura says, Mr. Burnett in another place. She asks how she's doing and accidentally calls her Clarissa. Alessandra corrects her and says every time people pass by, it's like Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart. She says she thinks they know what's going on and she wants to scream. And I want to point out, I've been watching The Simpsons with my daughter. We've been she's never seen it before, so we've started at the beginning and we've gone through we're up to season 5. And there was an episode of The Simpsons. The Simpsons had a habit of taking old movies and old literature and stuff like that and basically doing episodes that were they did an entire episode that was basically Citizen Kane. They did this with Lord of the Flies and a bunch of other classic works of literature. And there's one episode where Lisa makes a friend who is smarter than her, and she becomes really sort of insecure about it and anxious. And her friend they have this diorama competition, and her friend creates this amazing diorama, and she destroys it and enters her own in the competition or something like that. I'm trying to remember exactly what it is, but there's she starts to get driven crazy by this fictional heart underneath the floorboards of her diorama, and eventually she flips and she's like, it's the beating of that hideous heart. That's how all this to say, most of what I know about classic literature I learned from The Simpsons or Wishbone. And
that's coming from a teacher, folks.
Well, no, then I went and read the actual literature. But as a kid, you're watching this and you're like, they're making these. It's a really interesting show in the sense that a lot of kids watched it, and there was a lot of references that were not designed for them to get. And now I'm watching it. The one that we watched recently, the whole episode was about this casino that Mr. Burns creates, but throughout the episode, he basically becomes Howard Hughes. You see him becoming more and more paranoid about germs, more and more reclusive. He's saving bottles of urine. And at the very end of the episode, he says they want to just go back to the nuclear power plant. So he says to Smithers, hop in, we'll take the spruce moose. And he holds up a diagram a model of the spruce goose. And he's calling it the spruce moose. And Smithers is like, sir? And then he holds up a gun. He's like, I said hop in. So it's all of this stuff is from the, anyway, I learned most of what I learned about classic literature from The Simpsons. She's been studying it for 7 years. She laments the 7 years of advanced study of literature down the drain. She tells, I haven't even taken my orals yet. I have no idea what that is, but that sounds like none of my business.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I studied literature in university. I don't recall orals.
Well, it's I don't know if it applies necessarily to a PhD in literature, but generally, as I understand it, that's a reference to giving an oral presentation. You go in, you get asked questions by your professors and whatever board of experts, and they ask you these questions. You have to answer them and give speeches and all this stuff. And
I always thought that was just a thesis defense.
Well, could be considered that too, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. Or they may be two different things that are related.
Sure.
But yeah, it definitely has other connotations.
To me, when somebody says they're taking orals, because I was in Canada, you have to take French from grade 1 or grade 4, depending on your board, all the way up to grade 9 at least. You can take it further if you want. Orals are usually oral tests where you either have to write something down in French, or you have to converse in French as an exam, or or you have to listen to something in French and then write down what it's saying. So but this is literature, so that wouldn't make any sense.
In the context of this episode, it has definitely a different
so anyway,
different meaning.
Laura tells her that all she has to do is keep people believing in a man who isn't really there. Sarcastically, she says, I've done that for 4 years. You can do it for a day. Laura, come on.
Yeah, I mean, this is an example of somebody. I don't want to talk about it, but I want to talk about it.
Yeah, right.
I want you to force me to talk about it because I really want to talk about it, but I don't want to admit that I want to talk about it.
Precisely, yeah. And of course, Alessandra asks, "What are you talking about?" And she laughs and says, "We'll laugh about it over coffee one day." She tells her in the meantime she needs her to keep her head and tell her where Unidac might keep personnel files on a red flag project called Omega. So then we see, and I want to read from the script here because Laura's line is really funny. A reception area in front of a separate room housing row upon row of file cabinets. Laura in a lab coat wearing glasses. There's your favorite glasses.
Yeah.
And Burnett's ID badge stands ramrod straight holding a clipboard. And she says, Laura Holt, QRS Division Level 7 Procurement and Applications Background Check for PBY 14. Huh? I'm sorry, what? But her nonsense works because he buzzes her in.
Mm-hmm.
She walks through and into a room with wall-to-wall files until she eventually comes across a door with a sign that says Red Flag Projects, Authorized Personnel Only. She pulls out her lockpick kit, lets herself inside. She looks around the different filing cabinets until she finds the one labeled Project Omega. She opens it and takes out a bunch of file folders that say Project Omega on them. She sits down and begins to go through them. First one's blank, so she opens the second one. Also blank. Third one, blank. There is nothing in any of these folders.
Well,
Before
blankety blank.
Yeah, exactly. Before she can react, the man at the desk's voice is heard asking what she's doing here. She tells him, "That's an excellent question," and stands up and asks how she, wearing bogus ID, could get in here and get her hands on these files on a red flag project without being questioned. I do like her ability to pivot here.
Yeah.
She's not always great at undercover, but this is a good sort of way of weaponizing their corporate bureaucratic structure to her advantage. And it would have worked had it not been for the payroll supervisor that notices her a little further in the scene. Because she demands to know if he has the answer, and he asks who she is, and she says, "Security, and you're going on report." And that, he panics. He scrambles and follows her and says he didn't know what he thought. She challenges him with, "Thought what?" He pleads with her, telling her his record is spotless. And she says she'll let it go as a warning this time, but you better straighten up and tighten up. He tells her that she can count on it, and she leaves and goes to press the button for the elevator. And as she waits, the woman from payroll gets off the elevator. So that's where
I got a couple comments about this, and then we got some comments from viewers.
We have comments.
Yes.
Yay!
My comments, first of all, about this scene is, what are you doing here? That's an excellent question. How can I wearing bogus? That's a good response. Best defense is a strong offense. And she would have been doing well if she hadn't backed off. And when she says, "I'll let it go as a warning this time, but you better straighten up and tighten up, mister."
Fair.
You know, like the girl from Full House.
Yeah.
That is okay. That is her admitting that it's all a scam. It's a fraud. She's not real, because a real security person wouldn't let someone off the hook like that.
Well, to be fair though, she really had no other choice. What was she going to do? March him up to
What you do is you give me your name and your badge number, and
you'll be contacted by HR.
I'm filing a report with your name, and your name will be prominent in my report. And then you walk off, and then.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. A couple comments we got. He didn't want to bring Laura into a fraud, but that, of course, he's assuming that she would never want to marry him under any pretext. And I think this is in relationship to our commenting about why Steele isn't telling Laura about what's going on.
Well, we'll get there. I have many thoughts, but I'm waiting to.
And then as far as you being a teacher, highly educated on The Simpsons, this person says that most of what they learned about opera or classical music, they learned from Looney Tunes. And
same. Honestly, same. It was The Simpsons, and like I said, there was a show called Wishbone, which was a kids show that was narrated by a Jack Russell Terrier, and he would.
I won't even ask.
Every episode was a classic story that he would act out as the character in costume, and he was a cute little Jack Russell Terrier. It was adorable. Okay, shush.
Well,
anyway.
I do have to agree that Looney Tunes, they relied heavily on classical music, and that was a good source of information about classical music.
I actually really liked the fact that shows that were designed for kids used to contain all of these sort of references to either historical events or classic literature, things that kids would have no reference for, without any without worrying whether or not they were going to get it, because there was enough in the episode to hold their attention, and then as they get older, it also entertains the parents, and then as they get older, you rewatch it, and you're like, oh, I get that now. Oh, I get that now. And it kind of becomes
well, in some cases, it could also motivate them to say
to
go and do the research to find out about it, because it was referenced in this cartoon, and they didn't get it. So, but
exactly.
I mean, and now it's just fart jokes and whatever.
Yeah, there's not a lot of shows that do that anymore, and it's a shame because it feels like an inside joke when you get it.
Yeah, but nowadays intellectual content in cartoons is like, no, we don't do that because there's no money in it. It's like, Looney Tunes did okay,
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
So the personnel supervisor, or am I sorry? So she the payroll supervisor, I meant to say, walks up to the other guy, and it's Laura's busted. As she gets off the elevator, a voice can be heard over the PA system, paging Laura Holt to report to Section T, room 405. Why does she go? This is...
that was my question here. It's just right there. Hello. What? How does she not know this is a trap? And if she does realize it's a trap, why does she just walk right into it without a second thought?
Yeah, it has trap written all over it in neon blinking letters. It makes no sense that you would go. It just... I don't... It's basically like, Laura Holt, please report to the murder room. We are going to murder you now. Oh, okay, I better go. I'm sorry. So she does. She stops a passerby. She asks, I'm still finding my way around. Could you direct me to the T section? And then we see her coming to room T 405. She opens the door and enters. And I'm going to use the script here. As she opens the door and enters. As Laura steps into darkness, she gropes for a light when she hears the door lock behind her. Suddenly, the lights come on, and an ominous whir begins. Laura looks around to see that she is in a narrow wind tunnel with a huge fan at one end, which is beginning to rotate. The room itself is dominated by a sleek, life-size mock-up of the tail assembly of a modern jet fighter. The tail assembly faces away from the fan, which pulls air across its surface. Laura tries the door but can't get it open. Now, I am not in any way knowledgeable about this stuff. What is the purpose of this room? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay,
it is to trap Laura and...
It's the murder room. Okay, got it.
That's right, yeah. I've got some more comments about this scene as we progress through it. But yes, a wind tunnel is a room that is... and by the way, the airplane that is in there is obviously not life-size unless you're an ant. A wind tunnel is designed or is used to test designs for airflow efficiency.
Okay.
So, and this is also in the automotive industry these days, which is why every car on the road looks like every other car on the road, which looks like every other car on the road, which looks like every other car on the road, because they're all being designed for maximum airflow efficiency. Because when you have disruptions to the smooth flow of air across the surface, whether it be the body of a car or across the components of an airplane, it increases drag, which directly and negatively impacts fuel economy, as well as performance in an airplane. So they're doing these things to test how well a particular design, either the design in total or certain design elements, are performing in terms of the airflow around them.
Okay.
And so that's what these rooms are for.
Yeah. Okay. Agree about the cars. They're all the same, and they're all black, white, and gray. And very rarely do you see any colors anymore. It's just it's dismal.
Well, you do see some colors, but it's certainly not the wide variety that it used to be in the past. And everything looks like it was plopped out from cookie dough, which was then allowed to kind of sit and lose its shape.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was driving home from work the other day on the highway, and a bright red and white Chevy Bel Air drove by me, 1950s Chevy Bel Air, and I was like, hey, I know what that is.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be, and they had design elements in those cars that they would just not use these days because they are not good airflow aerodynamic design elements.
But they look cool.
Yeah,
they look
exactly.
Cool.
It's like There was a TV show that talked about this. I think it was called Home Improvement.
There it is. Notice I have not made a single Buffy reference. Just saying.
And they were talking about classic cars, and they get worse fuel economy. They're harder to drive. They don't have power steering. They don't have air conditioning. And of course, the question is, why would anyone want to drive one of them? And the answer was, because they're cool.
Because they're cool. I agree with you. I'm 100% on board with this one. So back in the wind tunnel, Laura yells, "Hey, there's somebody in here!" But the fan
hello,
already...
Laura. Are you really that stupid? Did you not?
Right? Like, they're aware.
Do you think they didn't?
They know.
Yes. I mean,
they know, sweetie. You're yeah. This was a trap. But the fan already drowns her out as it picks up speed and begins to draw her towards its enormous blades. Laura struggles to get to the tail assembly and throws herself at the stabilizer, grabbing onto its leading edge as the fan's velocity increases. You know what I thought of when I saw the scene, and you will understand this reference? This episode was badly written. Scene in Galaxy Quest when they're like, why is there a giant fan? And it's like, well, it was in the episode. This episode was badly written. This was what I thought of, like, why is there a giant blade? I get it. It's a wind tunnel. You just explained it, but still, it kind of like, anyway. So she's yelling that somebody shut this thing off, but obviously, no. The needle in the velocity gauge, we see that on the wall, begins to climb towards the red zone. She's fighting to keep her grip. She begins to slip from the sleek surface of the stabilizer.
400 miles an hour. Excuse me, I'm going to call bovine excrement. There's no way she could hold on. There's no, I mean.
No. This is tornado level winds. Like
this is so strong of a wind that even the smallest particle of dust would be inflicting very serious body damage. I mean, yeah, I mean, no.
So yeah, she's holding on. We see the strain. It enters the red zone. It continues onward. One hand lets go. The other barely maintains its grip. She's about to lose her grip. She's closing her eyes about what's to come when suddenly the fan dies. The gauge quickly returns to zero. She lies stretched out on the stabilizer as a door opens, and Steele pokes his head in, looks around, and spots Laura, surprised to see her. Ah, there you are, Laura. I've been looking everywhere for you.
We had a comment here, and I'm not sure exactly what it refers to.
Oh, the show that I just mentioned, Wishbone, the little Jack Russell.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Else knows what I'm talking about.
I told you my memory really, really bad, and I'd forgotten that reference. Yeah. Okay, so apparently there was somebody else who's a fan of that show as well.
Everybody loved Wishbone. If you don't love Wishbone, you have no soul. He was a little Jack Russell Terrier. Come on. That's adorable.
Never heard of him. Don't care.
Anywho, we switch back to the office. Keyes has returned, and he's smoking, like, again, right in Mildred's face.
Mm-hmm.
Mildred tells him to get the cigar out of her face, or she will use his forehead for an ashtray. And honestly, I wish she had. Keyes tells her that she's very funny. He just wants to ask Steele talks to Steele for a few minutes. Mildred insists she doesn't know where he is and suggests he go play in traffic until he gets back.
That's right.
They're giving her some really good lines here. Like, that's a good one. Keyes tells her,
Keyes just inspires brilliance.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
He tells her he was going to offer her a job at Vigilance Insurance, but after bull. He wasn't going to offer her.
No.
What a complete creep.
Now, he might have as a lure, but then it would never materialized.
Use it. But after this place folds, he guesses she can make it as a stand-up comic. He tells Estelle they're leaving. Again, Estelle just looks miserable there with him.
Oh, yeah.
Mildred leaps up and asks what he means by when this place folds. Keyes cackles again and says, "See you in the breadline, sweetheart." Ugh, what a gross human. As they leave, he says he loves this job, and Estelle, finally, you're disgusting. And
she doesn't do it in front of.
No,
I'll
she
use
waits
the
until
word
they're
clients
private,
or whatever,
yeah.
Because she's got a little bit of tact and decorum, and she's not there to fight with Keyes in public in front of the. No. But get him alone, and she's. Yeah.
You're disgusting. And he says, what? Because I like seeing justice done? And she correctly says, you don't care about justice. You just want to nail Steele.
Oh, sure. But justice gives me a good cover.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And he says, you got me all wrong. And he points out that he sat on what he knew about Steele because it didn't affect his job. But when his boss tells him that he's putting Remington Steele on retainer and that he has to report to that fraud on major cases, that's business. And I would like to say, okay, Laura, what the hell? Why would you? She sets up the contract. She's the one that set up the contract. Steele mentions that later on. Why on earth would she do anything that would keep Keyes in their orbit for any length of time?
Well, she didn't necessarily. She set up a deal with Vigilance Insurance, but it didn't necessarily have anything to do with Keyes. That could be just Vigilance Insurance's internal decisions. She and Vigilance just set up a contract where they're going to do a consulting type thing on certain cases, and it's just whoever you get assigned. Yeah, she should have known better. She should have.
I really think
thought about that, but I don't think she was necessarily aware that Keyes was going to be drawn into it.
Well, it's one of those things where Keyes has twice now, I think, come after them in a pretty serious way, and he has the knowledge of Steele's multiple passports and multiple names. The fact that he hasn't gone after them yet is a minor miracle. And if I were her, I would be steering clear of anything to do with Norman Keyes for just the sheer reason that I wouldn't want him in my orbit at all, poking around, because she knows how vindictive he is, and she knows how petty and cruel he is. Like, she knows this is not a man who is going to have any humanity in him if it wounds his ego in any way, shape, or form. So I don't know. If I were me, I am me. If I were her, I would not be trying to involve Vigilance Insurance in my cases or in a consulting. I wouldn't be setting up this contract. I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the rest of what happens is her fault. It isn't. But like that in and of itself was kind of inviting disaster, I think.
Yeah. But then again, she might have, well, like I said, she might not have said anything in the contract directly related to Keyes, so she didn't think about him being involved. And she might have even thought that after their last two cases with him, against him, whatever, how you want to describe it, that he'd gotten kicked down from his position to some lowly, flunky, or maybe was not even with the company. She might not have even.
Yeah, I don't know. She probably should have looked into that.
I'll agree. She should have. She should have walked away from anything. But of course, if they dangled a big enough dollar sign in front of her, she might have thought, well, we can handle Keyes.
Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like an awfully big risk for something that's maybe not necessary. But either way, what's done is done, and he's here. So Estelle basically says that it's her job to deal with informers, but that doesn't mean she has to like them. And good for you, Estelle Becker, because and I don't really have anything against her. She's doing her job, and she's not impressed. She's not there.
The thing I wonder about, though, is why is Keyes even there with her? Because he's an informant.
Weird.
Okay, so you're an informant. That doesn't mean that you get to be involved in the investigation and the background check and these other things.
He wants to see Steele suffer. That's why he's
there.
Right,
but he has no.
No, he doesn't.
And they Estelle and her bosses or whatever could just say, Keyes, go play in the street because you're not coming with us on this.
Yeah. They should. I agree with you. They should be. He shouldn't be orbiting around trying to see what's coming of his tattling. But unfortunately, that's the kind of guy he is. He's special.
Yes. Short yellow school bus special.
Yeah. So
our previous commenter about the Wishbone show adds that their kid was a kid in the Wishbone decade.
Yeah, the Wishbone decade was a.
So it's no longer just a TV show. Now it's a decade.
It was a whole. Everybody. You ask anybody in a certain age demographic, and they know who Wishbone is.
To me, a Wishbone is what you get out of a Thanksgiving turkey.
And it's also a cute puppy dog.
Anyway,
he's adorable. Anyway, so they get on the elevator, and he follows, telling her not to be naive as the door closes. The other one opens, and I want to read this from the script because it's quite funny. So as soon as the doors close, the other elevator opens, and Remington and Laura get off. Laura's clothes are a bit worse for wear, and her hair, well, the kindest one can say is that it's not quite as bad as the Bride of Frankenstein. Her mood isn't much better. That's what the script says. So
well, except that the Bride of Frankenstein, at least the photos of the version I've seen, and it probably wasn't an authentic version.
Yeah.
Her hair was hideous, but at least it was styled. Laura's is not even styled. This
is not styled.
It's just a rat's nest.
So yeah, Steele, he's kind of like oblivious to Laura's mood at the moment because he's basically kind of looking for a pat on the head here. He says, "I thought you might at least be a little grateful, Laura. After all, it was good detective work on my part. Mildred told me you were at Unidac. Alessandra directed me to the file room. I heard you paged on the loudspeaker, and she just, all right, I'm grateful, satisfied." They come into the office, and Mildred sees them, and she's a little taken aback at Laura's appearance. Mildred, she stands up, she starts to tell them about Norman Keyes. But Laura interrupts, saying to Steele that she would have been a lot more grateful if he had been there in the first place. Accusingly, she asks, "How was your doctor's appointment?" He said it took a little longer than expected, that's all. And you can see that he takes off his jacket, right? So that she can see he casually removes his jacket, and he's got the rolled up sleeve and the gauze bandage taped to the crook of his arm, as if he's just given blood. And that causes Laura to sort of pause a little bit because she's, because he says...
At least she knows that he wasn't totally lying about going to the doctor. The only question at this point is why.
Why? Yeah, because he says it took a little longer. He says, "I'll bet." And how did you get there? Walk. And that's when he takes off his jacket and you see the Band-Aid. And he says, "What's gotten into you?" And so this is where I'm gonna criticize Steele, obviously, for all of this.
Again?
But Laura, come on. This is where you should be. Cards on the table. I saw you get into the car with Clarissa. What's going on? This is not a time to play these games. She's playing these same games. She's testing him to see if he's going to tell her the truth. She already knows he's lying, at least about who he was with. Maybe not about the doctor, but come on. This is where
he's definitely keeping something from her.
They've been dancing around each other for 4 years. She knows for a fact that he's not going to tell her. She's either going to have to do one of two things. She's either going to have to flat out say, "I saw you get into a car with Clarissa. What is going on?" Or she's going to have to do what she ends up doing in this episode, following him around, trying to figure out what's going on. And it just ends badly. This is where she should have said, "Hey, I know you're hiding something from me. I want to know what it is right here, right now." Because she was nearly killed, and he wasn't there with her. And for whatever reason, she has a right to know what he was doing, even if, putting aside the personal stuff, on a professional level. She went to Unidac alone, and she was nearly killed.
But, not to defend it, not to excuse it, but just to explain it, there's a lot of times that people know exactly what they should do, but they just can't bring themselves to do it.
Yeah.
Either because they're afraid of the confrontation itself, or they're afraid of the answer.
Yeah. And this is this is it.
And if I don't know the answer, if I don't know what's going on, at least it's Schrodinger, that guy, his cat.
Schrodinger. Yeah, his cat.
Okay, Steele may be cheating on me, but as long as I don't know for certain that he's cheating on me, maybe there's another explanation.
Yeah,
but I don't want to find out, because if there's not another explanation, if he is cheating on me, I don't like that answer. So I'm just going to... It's
so frustrating, because this is their pattern. This is their pattern. He lies. She doesn't call him on it. She could break the pattern here, and she doesn't. She lets it go, and she lets it continue. And again, that's what he's lying about is not her fault, but the communication problems that they're having, she could at least try to help solve them.
I just had a thought. Two things. The one was the word codependent, and the other is abusive relationships. The same characteristic of I don't want to confront, I don't want to risk the result.
Yeah.
Now, different degrees, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
But it's kind of the same mentality.
Yeah. And I think she's still hoping that he'll tell her on his own, and he should. To be fair, I'm not giving him a pass here. Like, this shouldn't have come to this ever at all. But she's still just sort of hoping. I think it's half and half what you said. Half of her is hoping that he'll just tell her, and the other half is afraid that he'll tell her. So she's not confronting him. But this is where she should have.
Schrodinger's affair.
Yeah. Or Schrodinger's con or something. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, so she just says, she kind of, when she sees the Band-Aid, she backs off a little bit, sort of chastened slightly, and then she's vulnerable here when she says, I just could have used you at Unideck, that's all. And there's a lot in that line that she's not saying. She's upset, obviously, because she was nearly killed, but she's also upset that she knows he's lying to her, even if the medical tests were true. She knows that there's something he's not telling her, and once again, this is hurtful. This hurts. There's no other way around it. So, yeah, this sucks. Mildred doesn't read the room, and she laughs, and she asks what happened to Laura, and it actually does reference the Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And annoyed, Laura says thanks and asks if she found out anything more. Regretfully, she says no, she's shooting blanks. Just then,
it would have been funny if that was Steele's line.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that would be, but thankfully the writers decided not to go there. Yeah, so a young man comes in with a delivery for Mr. Steele. He has a tux. And again, dude, you're getting your tux delivered, like, right to you. Right in front of Laura.
Yeah.
So yeah, he brings in this tux, and Steele takes it from him and tells her to carry on, and she attempts to follow him and hesitates, yelling to Steele that she got her hands on some Project Omega personnel folders. He absentmindedly says, as he inspects the tux, and Laura adds that they were empty, all of them. He's in the other room. He makes another non-committal noise as he sets the tux down, and Mildred, meanwhile, is surprised to hear about a room that doesn't exist, and now employees that don't exist. Steele comes out of the office, clearly distracted, and Mildred attempts to get his attention by telling him that Norman Keyes and some dame named Estelle Becker are looking for him. Suspiciously, she asks if he's in some kind of trouble, and Mildred obviously is smart enough to know at this point that something's going on here. She knows enough about Steele to know that it's not all what it seems.
No,
and he says, he gives a guilty laugh and says, "Trouble? What trouble?" And she says she doesn't know exactly, but she's cut off by the phone ringing. Steele tells her the phone is ringing, and Mildred picks it up. He watches her answer it expectantly, and then, puzzled, she tells him it's for him, an Ilse Lund. Steele tells Mildred he'll take it in his office, and Laura asks who Ilse Lund is. Steele stammers and says, a nurse probably with his test results, and bolts into his office. Again, Steele, come on. You have been quoting classic movies for 4 years, and you have given Clarissa a code name for one of the most well-known classic films of all time, and you don't expect Laura to catch that?
You know, it's almost as if he's wanting to get caught.
Yeah, I wondered that too. That was honestly one of my thoughts, is he doing this, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, wanting Laura to stop him? Because this is sloppy. This is beyond sloppy.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, how his skills as a con man seem to be atrophied because he's making more and more mistakes that somebody who's supposed to be a good con man shouldn't be making.
Yeah. I mean, he could have at least chosen a name from a film that was more obscure that he was relatively certain Laura hadn't seen.
Yes.
He knows
one he hadn't taken her to see.
Yeah. I mean, most people have either heard of Casablanca, at least, if not seen it. And especially in that time period, like it would be a well-known film. So I don't know. This was just, again, not very bright. And it takes Laura half a second to realize what Steele just did. She mutters Ilse Lund and rushes over to the phone to listen in. Mildred asks what she's doing, and Laura tells her that Ilse Lund was the name of the character Ingrid Bergman played in Casablanca. just as curious now as Laura, both Mildred and Laura pick up the other extension. And side note, I had to explain to my daughter what a phone extension was the other day because she was reading a book. She was reading a book, and it was an older book. It was she's got a copy of like 12 of the Sweet Valley Twins books from like, the 80s, and one of the scenes has one of the characters picking up another phone extension, and she stopped and she goes, what do they mean phone extension? And I tried to explain landlines to her and the fact that you could pick up a phone in another room and hear the same. And she's like, but it took me a few minutes for her to get it, because she's like, but how would you hear them? And I'm like, because they're all connected. They're all the same phone line. And she's like, but I don't understand. I had to go over it. It eventually sank in, and she was like, whoa. I'm like, oh man, I feel so old. I feel so old. But yeah, they pick up on the other phone extensions. And on the other end of the line, Clarissa tells Steele it's her and that she used the code name like he told her. He tells her excellent, and she goes on to say that there's been a change of schedule and it's been moved to 3:00. She asks if that will be a problem. He looks at his watch and says no, he doesn't think so. He just has to take care of one minor detail, and he will meet her over there. And again, this is the perfect time, literally, to confront him. She's just heard him talking to Clarissa and organizing something, and there's something going on, and she's not being told about it. So, dude.
Yeah.
And I don't know did we talk about blood tests in a different episode? Or am I hallucinating? Or not hallucinating, but am I imagining things?
Recall if we did or not. We may have, but I can't recall it.
I was curious, and I looked up why you would get a blood test, because I didn't get a blood test when I got married. But I see this in movies all the time, especially older movies, people getting blood tests in order to get married. And so I Googled it, and I apologize to any of the listeners if you've already heard me say this, because I can't remember. But beginning in the early 20th century, a number of U.S. states passed laws mandating medical examinations for one or both parties before marriage. The most common requirement was a blood test for syphilis, though other diseases such as gonorrhea and rubella were sometimes also targeted. If a partner tested positive, they would generally be required to undergo treatment before they could receive a marriage license. Such laws were once widespread in the U.S., with all but 8 states requiring premarital blood tests by 1954. Mandatory testing was also in effect in parts of Canada and some European nations such as Sweden. Most of these laws were repealed by the late 20th or early 21st century. So obviously that was not a thing when I got married, but it was because syphilis, according to this, was most commonly targeted by premarital examination laws. It was relatively widespread in the first half of the 20th century, estimated to affect more than 10% of Americans during their lifetime, with many of those afflicted unaware that they were carrying the disease. Because syphilis could be transmitted from mother to child and cause birth defects, detecting the presence of the disease prior to marriage and the subsequent production of offspring was seen as a beneficial public health measure. Because, of course, people never had sex or children outside of wedlock. That just never happened. But yeah, so that was...
And I was going to say, I actually had reference to blood tests later on when we're in a later scene, that in California, as far as I could tell, no blood tests were required to get a marriage
interesting.
license.
Did you have to get a blood test when you got married?
No.
Okay, so yeah, by that point it was probably not like as crucial, which is interesting because the AIDS crisis was just beginning. You would think they'd be ramping it up, but either way, that's where that comes from, the blood test requirement. So I just thought that was interesting, and if I have already said this before, I apologize. So yeah, Clarissa tells him she's really excited, and he says he's rather fraught with anticipation himself. He hangs up, prompting Laura and Mildred to quickly do the same. He then comes rushing out of his office, tux in hand, telling them that there's been a minor emergency. Either the lab mixed up his test results or he's got hepatitis.
I've got comments about this. Go ahead and finish.
Okay. Well, just for those who don't know, hepatitis is an inflammation of the liver tissue. Some people or animals with hepatitis have no symptoms, whereas others develop yellow discoloration of the skin, whites of their eyes, jaundice, poor appetite, vomiting, tiredness, abdominal pain, diarrhea. It is acute if it resolves within 6 months and chronic if it lasts longer than 6 months. Acute hepatitis can resolve on its own or progress to chronic hepatitis or rarely result in acute liver failure. It's most commonly caused by the virus hepatovirus A, B, C, D, and E, and there's obviously different types. Hepatitis A, B, and D are preventable with vaccines. Medications may be used to treat chronic viral hepatitis. Antiviral medications are recommended in all with chronic hepatitis C, except those with conditions that limit their life expectancy, and there's no specific treatment for NASH. Physical activity, a healthy diet, and weight loss are recommended. So, come on.
Well, continue on with the because I've got some comments about the next part. So go ahead.
Either they've mixed up my test results, or I've got hepatitis, is what he says to them. And then Mildred, super confused, says, "What?" And he reassures her that it's not the contagious kind, but not to drink out of his cup for the next 24 hours. He then
okay, first off,
yeah, I was going to say, you probably
if it's the non-contagious kind, then it doesn't matter if they drink from his cup.
Yep.
So right there, Steele, you blew it. Secondly, where would he have gotten non-contagious hepatitis? Well, non-contagious hepatitis can occur due to causes such as alcohol use, medications, toxins, or certain medical conditions, and does not spread from person to person. Alcoholic hepatitis results from excessive alcohol consumption leading to the inflammation of the liver. It is not contagious and is primarily caused by lifestyle choices. Drug-induced hepatitis. Certain medications can cause liver inflammation as a side effect, and this includes over-the-counter pain relievers and prescription medications that may be toxic to the liver. Again, this form is not contagious. Toxic hepatitis, exposure to environmental toxins, chemicals, or poisons that can lead to liver inflammation. And this type of hepatitis is also non-contagious and the result from external factors rather than viral infections. And then there's the chronic non-viral hepatitis, conditions such as autoimmune hepatitis, where the body's immune system attacks liver cells, can cause chronic inflammation. And again, this type is not contagious but does require medical management. So he picked the worst possible thing to say, because it's so easy to just, what do you mean it's not contagious? So don't drink out of my cup. I mean, and how did you get it? Well, you're an alcoholic. Yeah,
the entire excuse is ridiculous, and
it is
very frustrating to watch, because you're just sitting there thinking, like, come on, they're not going to buy this. He has to know that. He's running back to the doctor with his tux. What?
Well, and Laura doesn't seem to do anything about it. She just kind of lets it go.
I have in big block letters, confront him. Like, I literally have that written there in my notes, because this is where she should be saying, like, stop, do not move, do not pass go, do not collect $200. What is happening? But she doesn't. He does tell Laura not to go back to Unidac, as this case has gotten far too dangerous, and then he leaves. Laura rushes to follow, but Mildred stops her, demanding to know what's going on. Laura, frantic, says, I'm going to lose him, and Mildred reassures her that she won't, because Fred still has to bring the limo around, and demands that Laura give. Laura reluctantly says that all she knows is that when Mr. Steele had his doctor's appointment, she saw him get into a car with Clarissa. Mildred realizes that's why Laura was asking all the questions, and wonders what the boss is doing with a college tutor. Bless Mildred for still thinking that she's a tutor. Like, all this time has gone by, and she still hasn't figured this out.
Bernard has been telling her that she's a tutor. So, I mean, Bernard wouldn't lie to her.
Yeah, sweet Bernard.
Yes.
Laura takes Mildred by the shoulders, realizing
so honest, so sweet.
Yeah. And then this is where Laura realizes she has to shatter Mildred's illusions, because she takes her by the shoulders and says, Clarissa is no college tutor. She's never even been to college. Confused, Mildred tells her that Bernard says she's the most popular girl on campus. And flatly, Laura tells her then, and off too. Clarissa's the kind that will be popular with anyone for the right price. Shocked, Mildred says, you're kidding. She starts to say, that sweet, lovely girl, but then she stops mid-sentence going, what is my nephew doing with a hooker?
He's her tax advisor.
He's her tax advisor, yeah. But she says, but the question is, what is Mr. Steele doing with her? And understanding the urgency now, Mildred says, go and find out. Laura tells her to keep working on Omega, and she'll check back in when she's solved this mystery. Just as Laura leaves, the phone rings again. Mildred answers it to a frantic Alessandra, saying she needs to talk to Mr. Steele. Kind of somewhat abruptly, Mildred says, take a number. Alessandra then asks for Miss Holt. Mildred says she just missed her, asks if she can help. Alessandra tells Mildred her name, and Mildred realizes that she's the girl at Unidac. her whole demeanor changes. She says, "What's up, honey?" Alessandra tells her the police are there and asks what should she do, and then panicking. And the script even says, this is this is funny because it says, where is it? I have to scroll down a little bit here.
Panicking.
Yeah, Mildred panicking. Don't panic.
Yeah, let me do the panicking for you.
Yeah, pretty much. So then we switch over to the county courthouse, and we see Steele emerging from the building. He's walking down the steps. He's folding a piece of paper, slips it into his jacket. And then across the street, arms folded, eyes narrowed, we see Laura watching him get into the limo. And it's interesting that he didn't...
Steele's driving the limo. Where's Fred?
Yeah, I was literally just about to say that. It's interesting that he gets into the limo and Fred is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, especially given the last scene where Mildred says, well, Fred needs to bring the limos around.
Yeah.
You assume that Fred's going to be driving it and not just bringing it for Mr. Steele to drive.
Yeah, that would be my assumption.
Also, I have some problems with this because Steele is obviously there to get a marriage license. Well, to obtain a marriage license in California, both parties must apply together in person with valid photo ID. Hello. Well, where's Clarissa?
I mean, just because we don't see her doesn't mean she wasn't there. Maybe she went out in a different exit or something. I don't know.
I'm not buying it. Not buying it. Nope. She was there. He was there by himself, getting it. So, no.
Fine. But my notes. I even have in my notes. If he was going to drive himself, why not get the Auburn?
Yes. That was another part of my question, but I just kind of glossed over it there when I was asking. But yeah.
It is weird. I don't think we've ever seen anybody but Fred drive the limo.
No.
Like, this is very, very unusual.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he gets in, and then he drives away, and then she starts to do the same, and then she's cut off by a sedan. And she gets out and she confronts the man in the sedan. That rhymes, man in sedan. And it is a man who introduces himself as Lyle Andrews, Unidac Security. He tells her she has a lot of explaining to do. And I know she questions him on this later, but I don't think security from a private company can stop you in the street. But
not legally, no. I mean, no. In a practical sense, they can, but legally they can't.
Yeah. So, annoyed, she watches as the car disappears from view and tells Lyle that he also has some explaining to do. And like I said, she says he has no right to pull over a private citizen. Lyle tells her that he has a report that she was in a high-security area, and that's all he needs to sick the FBI on her. She asks him why he doesn't, and Lyle tells her because he knows her boss's reputation, and the feds always find a way to screw things up. He asks her who she's working for, but Laura tells him, sorry. He tells her that she's in trouble, and he's trying to give her a break, but Laura's not buying it. She tells him no dice. Lyle tells her that she's forcing him to call the FBI, and that if she could just tell him what the case concerns, maybe they could come to a compromise somehow.
Okay. First of all, the man's already played his hand.
Yeah.
He is not going to call the FBI.
No.
He only wants to know what she knows. So, Laura, get your head into the game. And then secondly, it's the same mistake that she made when she told the guy at the personnel records department that she'll let the security guy off. You don't let someone off for a security violation. So red flags everywhere. I mean,
I agree with you.
She should be better than this.
I agree. This is one of the things that bothers me about this episode is that Laura is dumbed down by the writers because she makes some really stupid choices. Going to that room when she's paged to, come on.
Yeah.
Not as you said, her dealing with the other guy in the personnel files. This here, this is not smart. And Steele's not being smart with his shenanigans either. But like, this is just surprisingly stupid for her.
No, but the difference is that with Steele, we can look back at his history and say, it's really, really a dumb thing to do, but it's consistent with his behavior in the past.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
With,
this is not.
With Laura, season 3, season 4, her intellectual level, her skill as an investigator has dropped precipitously, and actually even started back in season 2.
I I think it's been up and down, but I don't disagree that she's written.
But overall, the trend has been down.
She's been written.
There's clearly only one reason. It's because Murphy and Bernice are not there.
Yeah, well, that and because I think...
I'm sorry. I'm just
yeah.
being silly.
Pierce Brosnan was becoming so popular that they were leaning into him more than they were to her, which is frustrating because I'm not saying that... I think the tendency, this is what bothers me sometimes about TV like this, whereas the tendency is that we can only have one smart character on the show. So it either has to be the smart woman or the smart man, but we can't have both. And it's kind of ridiculous because they're both smart in different ways. I like the scenes where Steele uses his street smarts to figure things out, like that scene in the pool hall in the previous episode. That was well written because that's something that Laura maybe doesn't have as much exposure to, right? Whereas her own ability to use legwork and her training and the things that she does know should be on showcase too. Like, there's no reason why it has to be a competition between the two of them.
Yeah. It's the same mentality that at this time said you can only have one lead character and then a second lead. But you couldn't have an ensemble cast because, well, nobody could follow it. It would be too hard to write for. It would, all the excuses that they gave or that they mentally used to dismiss the idea of moving beyond the single lead and then the second lead.
Meanwhile, you've got Friends a decade later. Speaking of Friends, you've got them a decade later, where by the end of that series, every single one of them was making $1 million per episode, and that was an ensemble cast of 6 characters. It can be done. It's not impossible to write. And this is one of those situations where you're just like, she's smarter than this because she says Omega. Surprised, he asks how she knows about Omega. She asks him what it is, and he says top secret. They won't even tell him in security. Laura tells him that someone in the company found out and was killed for it. He was very smart. He found out who the man was and framed his secretary. She says that since then, someone at Unidac has tried to kill her. Lyle asks if she would like to tell her story to the president at Unidac. She asks, what about the FBI? Lyle tells her, forget about the FBI. It sounds like they have a conspiracy on their hands. He asks if she wants to expose it or stand there being righteously indignant. She thinks for a moment.
Hello. If you have a conspiracy concerning a top secret, presumably government project, the FBI is the very first people you would call.
Yes.
And you would have them there with the company's people getting briefed.
Yep. And she agrees to get in the car. And my notes, I have dumb. In my notes, I wrote dumb, because no, you don't. No.
My comment here is a little more gentle and a little more compassionate.
Yeah.
In big bold letters, it says, "Don't get into the car. What have you done with your brain?"
Yeah, right? Like, where is it? Where has it gone?
Moved south a little bit.
The character assassination for both of these characters in this episode is painful. We've got her reduced to a jealous shrew and him reduced to kind of an idiot when it comes to being a con man. Like, he's just not very good at it. And the two of them, it hurts. Yeah. We switch back over to Unidac, and we've got Alessandra. Poor Alessandra. Like, I just feel bad for her. Because she's got these 2 police officers, and they're standing inside the office, and she's standing there with the payroll supervisor. I said the woman in gray, but she's payroll supervisor. And the cop asked the payroll supervisor if she actually saw the body. She says no, then points at Alessandra and says, but she wouldn't let me in. And she thought,
well, there's your proof right there.
Yeah. And it's clear, obviously, that this woman's involved, because there's no way in hell you would call and report a murder simply because you couldn't see a middle manager one day of your workday. Like, that wouldn't be a thing anybody does. So, like, that's a glaring frickin' red flag, because she knows he's dead, and nobody's exposed that yet. And obviously they expected it to be exposed. So the cop cuts her off, indignant that she called in a murder without a body. Fair. She tells him something strange is going on. Burnett has been canceling appointments all morning, adding that nobody has seen him. She asks Alessandra where he is, and she tips up her chin and says, lunch. The payroll supervisor is not mollified. She says at 3:30, with who? And this is where Mildred, God bless her, comes in swinging because she's saving the day.
Mildred is the only character in this fourth season. She's the only character that they've actually written to be not just competent, as intelligent as she was in the past, but even more so.
Yeah, she's become more competent, more able to hold her ground, to be smart, to think on her feet. She comes in and says, me. She announces herself as Krebs IRS. The cop asks if she just had lunch with Burnett, and Mildred, in full fraud squad mode, asks, you have a hearing problem? I love her.
I love that.
The payroll supervisor asks, where is he now? And Mildred says, the blue parrot, tying one on. And she looks at Alessandra and says, you a secretary? She nods, and Mildred says she's going to need his expense receipts going back 5 years. And the cop, he says he might have been better off dead. Which is quite funny because obviously the minute a bigger bureaucracy comes in, we better get out of here.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but he can tell from Mildred's attitude, her tone of voice, her indignant,
everything.
Yeah. That oh man, this Burnett guy, he is in deep trouble.
Screwed.
I wouldn't want to be him. And even if he was my worst enemy, I wouldn't want him to be where he is right now.
Pretty much, because he turns back around and admonishes them, saying, next time, make sure there's a body. The two cops leave along with the payroll supervisor, who seems to know of course she knows she's been lied to. She knows that Burnett wasn't at lunch. They rush up to the door and close it, only for Mildred to see Burnett's body hanging from the door. And, I mean, I'm going to call bullcrap on this, because dead bodies are extremely heavy because of rigor mortis and all that stuff. But also, that
rigor mortis does not increase the weight.
That that hook would not hold, the clothing would just rip.
Yes,
and the body
would rip.
It would not hold his entire body up. He's hanging from it like he's a suit. It's funny, but it's not.
But we kind of did this back in the pilot episode too.
True. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So we didn't criticize it then, so I guess we can't criticize it now.
We'll have to hand wave it here.
We've got to be consistent.
Poor Mildred, she whimpers and takes a step back, and panicked. Alessandra said it was the best she could do under the circumstances. She offers her some water, and Mildred brushes it off. I see things like this all the time, but then she stumbles as she goes toward the couch and needs to sit down. They sit down, and Alessandra asks who Mildred is. She tells her Krebs, Remington Steele Investigations. Alessandra tells her that payroll supervisor called the cops, and deduces that she must be in on it, whatever it is. And Mildred realizes that she's right and that they aren't going to stop now, whoever they are. She concludes that they have to get the stiff out of there. Alessandra asks how, and Mildred shrugs, saying, open to suggestions. They look at each other in confusion, and then this scene is quite, ingenious, I think.
I have a question about it, but go ahead.
Well, is the question, how did they get the mail cart in there? Or
No.
Okay. Because we see Mildred pushing the mail cart loaded to the brim with mail. Several secretaries want to add to the outgoing mail pile, but Mildred waves them off, says, sorry, full load. You'll have to wait for the next cart.
Okay, so then why did she leave the main aisle? Because she started out coming down the main aisle. She takes a detour, goes down in between the desks in the little area. It's not really even an office because there's no doors or walls or anything. She goes down the aisles between the desks, telling everybody, no, I'm full, and then comes back out into the main aisle where she just was. I mean, this is like the routing that I get from Uber and Lyft. You get off the road, drive through this neighborhood, and then come back and get on the road again.
It isn't. It doesn't make any sense, but it's funny to watch, I guess. That's, I guess, the purpose of it. She moves on and she sneaks a look down at the cart where we see Burnett folded in the cart and covered with mail. She whistles and she continues down the hall. So we've got that plan in action, whereas we get a scene change here, and in the gray sedan, Laura and Lyle are driving towards what we see as oceanfront property. Laura comments that she didn't realize Unideck had any oceanfront property, and Lyle says, well, it's the president. He likes to get away sometimes. Laura pulls out a comb and attempts to brush her hair and then gives up, saying, forget it. And this is probably the only part of Lyle that's even remotely human. because he sees her give up on the hair and just laughs. Which is funny until he then asks her what put her onto brunette in the first place, and she freezes. And Lyle immediately realizes his mistake.
Oops.
And this drives me nuts in movies because I'm all like, and I get it. It's human nature. And probably you wouldn't be able to control your reaction, but I always think to myself, like, just act natural. Answer his question. Pretend you don't notice. And then when you get your second, escape. But she doesn't. Her reaction to what he says clues him into the fact that he screwed up.
Yep.
Because he smiles. He gives her a really chilling smile, and he says, "Oh, that's right. You never said his name."
Yeah.
So now they both know that they're in trouble. And after a beat, she throws her door open and bails out. And we see her basically like rolling down a bluff, I guess.
Yeah.
Would that be the correct word for it? A cliff, basically.
Cliff,
right?
Side of the road, yeah.
Yeah.
Embankment.
So he jumps out of the car, and you see he's got a gun in his hand. He pursues Laura, like I said, who jumps down a cliff, and he's watching. He takes aim, but he's too far away. She's running down the beach.
Yep.
When she goes down the cliff, she's like tumbling head over heels. She's covered in dirt. Like she's
I have to question whether she would have really been able to just get up and run off like that after having rolled down that embankment.
I agree. It was probably a little. It's kind of ridiculous, but again, I guess we gotta hand wave that too. So
yes.
Yeah. So we've got the next, again, the script is funny here. Every time it describes her increasingly worsening appearance, the script is quite funny with it. Because this says, as the elevator opens and Laura gets out looking like something the cat wouldn't bring in. Her hair remains frazzled, her clothes are ripped, nylons run, and she's covered with dirt, and one of her high heels is broken, forcing her to walk with an awkward gait. As she proceeds to the office, she draws stares from passersby and then got a problem, buddy, to the guy passing by. It's like, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. That's funny. We see her limp into the office. Again, one of her shoes missing a heel. She calls for Mildred or Mr. Steele, and when no answer comes, she grabs a pair of white running shoes from the filing cabinet.
Okay. So she returns to the office. There's no one there. The door wasn't locked. Does anyone in this office ever lock any doors? I know. What's the point? Because everybody just breaks in. But, I mean, Mildred should have a little bit more together than that, because you don't walk out and leave the office unattended and unlocked. I mean, you come back, your computers will be gone, everything. It's just, it's, I'm sorry. No.
Keep waving. Just keep waving.
Keep waving.
Keep waving. So she's in, she grabs her shoes, the phone rings, she storms over the phone, picking it up and throwing away her heel in frustration. The voice on the other end tells her this is Starbright Jewelers. She says, hooray for you. This poor guy, I kind of feel bad. Like, he's just doing his job. He's just making a call. Right?
And of course, as she's answering talking on the phone, she's changing into her tennis shoes. And I like slit skirts. I mean, I won't say anything beyond that, but I like them.
Oh, yeah, okay. And then he asks if Mr. Steele is in, and sarcastically, are you kidding? And again, this poor guy doesn't know. He doesn't know what's going on.
Why take it out on him? I mean, come on.
Yeah. He ignores her, thankfully, and tells her to tell him that they are sending the rings over to the church as discussed. There will be an extra charge, of course, but Laura, finally paying attention, asks, what church? And the man tells her the Little Chapel of Perpetual Happiness. That is what a worst
name. I mean, that sounds like something out of Las Vegas.
It really does. Yeah. Oof. That's got to add insult to injury. That just that. Yes. So speaking to herself, she mutters, blood test, tuxedo, county courthouse. Her eyes grow wide as the man on the other end asks if she's still there, and she looks at the phone and yells, the Little Chapel of Perpetual Happiness, before slamming it down. And then she makes this hilarious noise of like sheer exasperation and walks to her office, only for the phone to ring again. She storms back to it, picks it up. Now what? This time it's Mildred. She asks her where she is, and Mildred says she's in the Unidac mailroom. Confused and distracted, she asks what is she doing there. And Mildred tells her that someone called the cops on Alessandra, but it's okay. She says she put the body where it will be lost for hours, if not days. Laura asks, where is that? And Mildred, pleased with herself, says, priority mail.
Can I tell you a mail story?
Sure.
I had something that I had purchased, and with U.S. mail, if you get tracking on it, you can follow that. They've got an app. You can go to their website, put in the tracking number, and it'll tell you the expected delivery date. Now, the word very specifically is expected, as in based on everything that we know as far as the amount of volume, the type of the level of service that was purchased for this package, whatnot. This is what we estimate it will arrive at, taking all factors into consideration.
Right.
Well, I've had packages, and I had this recently happen, that it was sitting at the distribution center in Anchorage, 15 miles away.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
For a week.
Yeah.
And when you contact the post office and say, why is it just sitting there? Why aren't you? Oh, it's not scheduled for delivery. No, it's not. The word is not scheduled. It is expected. That doesn't mean you just sit there and hold it until, okay, well, it has to deliver by tomorrow. So now we can do something with it. No, if you've got it there, you do something with it. It just, and then if you have a package that doesn't make it by the expected date, and it's not even close. I mean, it's not like it got weather delayed for a day or whatever. It's just not even close. Well, that's not a scheduled delivery date. That's an expected, and things happen. Well, now you're changing the terminology and the words again. I mean, it's just. I mean, Mildred's right. Put in priority mail in their mailroom, it will never get delivered.
I have an even more insane story. When my husband, when we filed his application to become a permanent resident in Canada, he was still in the UK. So essentially, we got married in November. We sent out all the paperwork in January. I came back in December because I couldn't stay for too long. And we were essentially waiting for him to get his entry visa so he could officially land in Canada as a landed resident. He stayed there to continue working until that happened, because if he were to come to Canada, he could have come and stayed, but he wouldn't be able to work until he got that permanent residency. So it just made more sense for him to stay there. We had planned a visit. So it wasn't as official, because he could still visit, right? We had planned a visit. My sister was getting married. He was going to come for her wedding in May. Okay. So he booked the plane tickets. We had everything set to go. And then in April, he received notification from immigration saying that his visa had been approved and he needed to send in his passport to get the visa placed in the passport. And he had to do it then. But we were assured it would only take 4 weeks-ish, and we would have the passport back before his trip. He sent in the passport, and we never got it back. It just disappeared. And so we are looking at days leading up to this trip, because in addition, now this was no longer officially a visit. Officially, he landed in Canada in May. Spoiler alert, it turned out okay, but that visit was his official landing by accident, because it went faster than we thought. But we waited and waited for this passport to come back in the mail, and it just wasn't happening. And so he went down to his post office several times and asked, is there anything there for me? Is there anything there for me? And they said no. I tried calling my member of parliament to see if they could figure out what happened to it. And they were like, well, we can't give you personal information for him. And I'm like, I get that, but could you at least point us in the right direction? No, can't do anything. Sorry. And literally days.
We can't even tell you who to talk to.
We didn't even know what country it was in. We didn't know if it had gotten back to him.
But his response. Yeah, I'm talking about his response. I can't even tell you who to go to talk to because that's classified information. That's personal.
Pretty much. Yeah.
No, it's not.
I know.
I'm asking you, who is the person in charge?
I know. So then, we're like 2 days away from when he's supposed to fly out to come and visit me, and he's basically thinking that he's going to lose the money he spent on this flight. And in a last-ditch effort, he went back to his post office and asked, like, are you sure there's nothing there for me? Like, anything at all? And the guy was like, no, there isn't. He's like, nothing from Canada? And he's like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, there's something from Canada. And it had been, like, there the whole time. And just nobody had... Yeah. So this was literally the day...
The question is there anything here for me? Not, is there anything, for me here
Canada?
from Scotland?
Right. So yeah, the day before he was due to fly out, he got his passport. And that was his official landing in Canada. And he ended up leaving. He didn't stay, obviously, because that was only ever supposed to be a visit. He had to go back and sell his flat and quit his job, and he didn't officially come to live here until October. But it was like, oh my God, really? You had it the whole time? And yeah.
Well, it's that I'm a government employee, I don't have to care attitude that just infuriates people.
Priority mail. So that's where Burnett is put, and Mildred's probably right. He's pretty safe there. So Mildred asks where she's going to be, and Laura angrily says the little chapel of perpetual happiness before hanging up and storming towards the door. And poor Mildred looks even more confused. So inside the little chapel of perpetual happiness, we've got the minister, who's described as a genial, even-tempered fellow, and we've got Steele and Clarissa standing before the minister. She is in a white wedding dress, veil, train, the whole bit, and he is in a crisp tuxedo.
Yes,
looking good.
Oh yes, she is. Oh, I mean, yeah, he is.
So okay. So you've got to be honest here. You've got to think for wedding dresses. Is this where we're going?
No comment.
Interesting. Okay. Sweaters, glasses, and wedding dresses.
Yeah.
Put a sweater over the wedding dress. It's like
no, that's
I'm just trying to figure out what the recipe is.
Well, those are two ingredients that just don't go together. I'm sorry.
Fair.
They're good on their own, but they don't go together. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got the minister. Again, they're standing there. He's talking about the symbol of your troth, your lifelong commitment to one another. He hands her the ring. With this ring I thee wed. She does the same. Okay. What was his plan here? I guess this is where I'm going to bring this up, because was he going to, he later tells Laura that they have to be married for 2 years in order for immigration to see it as valid. So what was he planning to do? Was he planning to move in with her? Was she going to keep her own apartment and then just try to play house if immigration stopped by? Was he paying her every month for this? Was this a service that was going to be
hourly rate?
Well, I mean, he says he's paying by the hour, but then I have to think that if she's doing this for him, she is legally marrying him. This is not this is not playing dress up like later. This is literally, he's gotten the marriage license and the blood test and everything. Like, he's doing this for real. Yeah. So this is her, she's also marrying him. This is affecting her too. And this is an awful lot of trust that he's placing in Clarissa, because if, obviously they're intending for the marriage to be ended once the 2-year period is up, I would assume, right? But by law, she would be in.
My presumption was that they came to some sort of an arrangement where, yes, she would be basically his wife legally. They would probably live together. It may or may not be any conjugal visits, but basically he was going to take care of her, pay her bills. She was going to be set up really, really nice to offset her lost income from her other tutoring activities. And
her tutoring job.
And yeah, I mean, he was basically hiring her to be this, and they probably had some sort of agreement. They may have even written down a private agreement that they stashed in a safe somewhere, or with a lawyer, that, after 2 years, this is what's going to happen. This is what you'll get out of the settlement from
Well, yeah, prenup, basically. Right?
Basically, yeah.
So, okay, but I don't think that he ever intended for her to live with him, because if there's no
He would
way.
have to.
No, because I
She would
think he
have
was.
to.
This is where, like, this is such a silly idea, because if he's trying to keep this from Laura, she can't be living with him. So I don't think he ever intended for her to find out. I think this was something he was going to do, and if immigration showed up, he'd have Clarissa pop in and they'd play house. But I don't think he ever intended for her to be living with him.
He would almost
day to
have
day.
to. He would almost have to, because they would have to show that they are living together as man and wife. So she would have to move in. She would have to have all of her documentation, everything adjusted to whatever address they are cohabitating, presumably his apartment. And I think that his plan was to, because they never know what kind of investigation immigration was going to follow up, plus the fact that Keyes is involved in it, they had to play it really, really tight. So I think his plan was to go through the process, marry her, and then after that was all said and done, and Laura couldn't do anything about it, then to let her know, oh, this was the situation. I'm not saying it was a good plan. I'm just saying I think he had to have been planning to let her know, because even if, let's take your version of it here, that they're just going to try and put on a show whenever necessary. Laura was bound to find out.
Oh, I'm not arguing there at all.
And so
this was ridiculous.
He's better off planning for that and telling her, getting out in front of it once it's to the point where she can't do anything to stop it. Then it would be to try to hide it from Laura, but make it visible to immigration and Keyes.
I personally think, I'm going to say I don't think that was the intention, but I am going to agree with you that would be something that he would have to do. And that's where I think that he's not thinking this through, and that this is evidence of that he's not thinking this through, because he's basically running around reacting to this situation that has cropped up, and he's panicking, and he's just doing the first thing he can think of. Fine, I'll marry someone. I don't think he actually ever thought about what would happen after the fact. I think he was hoping that immigration would be satisfied, they'd go away, and that he could just sweep it under the rug. I think that's what he was hoping for. I'm not disagreeing.
Because he
right,
even at this point knows that they've got to keep up the act for 2 years. Because
I think he knows the marriage has to be valid for 2 years. But I honestly think that he was hoping that he could just make it all go away.
Okay, but see, if it's got to be valid for 2 years, that means that you are presuming, maybe incorrectly, but you are at least presuming the possibility that they will be checking up on you. And they will probably be checking up on you without advance notice.
Yeah, I honestly
especially
think this was
given
one of his,
that Keyes is involved.
I really think this was one of his, like, I'll jump off that bridge when I come to it. Like, he's not thinking ahead in this.
No, this is burn that bridge while I'm standing on it.
Yeah, pretty much. Because none of this was something like, you're right, he was never going to be able to keep any of this from Laura. This is 100% a better to ask forgiveness than permission type of plan. And he has to know that it would only be worse if that was his plan. If it was his plan to move Clarissa in, he has to know that that would torpedo his relationship permanently. That Laura would not stick around and stay involved with him romantically while he's got a woman living in his home.
Unless he could assure her that this was all just for show. I'll use that word show, meaning that he's going through it. He's putting on the act. She's living with him as his wife, but they're not actually internally. They're not acting as man and wife. It's just there to satisfy all the tick boxes. And that since there's really no emotional involvement with Clarissa, he can still continue to have his relationship with Laura.
That would be...
I know it is, but that's got to be the thinking here.
If we go with your line of thinking, where
should,
his plan was to move her in, okay? he would have to cut off every part of his relationship with Laura, because if immigration's watching him and they see that he's having an affair on his supposed wife, they're gonna ask questions. They're gonna wonder, is this relationship valid? Is this is a marriage of convenience? They're gonna look into her. It's not gonna. He would, and I don't think Laura.
Okay,
would,
so they sneak around. They hide.
I'm saying Laura wouldn't do it. He has to know that Laura's not going to be okay with any of that. He had to know that. Which is why I think he was trying to sweep it under the rug and just hope everything would go away. I'm not saying it would. I'm saying you're right. Like I think he would find out the hard way after the marriage was legalized that, oh wait, I'm going to have to move her in. Oh wait, I'm going to have to do this. I think that this is stupid. This is really stupid. I mean,
I don't
stupid.
disagree that it's stupid. I mean, it is, but I think he's giving it. He may not have given it as much thought as I presume he did, but I think he's given it more thought than you presume he did.
We'll see what the Steele watchers think, but either way, we see them standing in front of the minister. The script describes the situation as the chapel a modest structure. Next to the minister stands an older woman who could be his wife. She's not actually in the shot, I don't think. I think they kind of got rid of her, but I don't remember if she was there. But an elderly organist sits to one side of the altar with a cheap portable electric organ. The pews are empty save for 2 elderly professional witnesses sitting in the front row and a half dozen of Clarissa's friends, fellow professionals, who have dolled up for the occasion and are finding it hard to repress some sniffles. I like that description of her fellow professionals that she has.
I just double-checked, and yes, there is an older woman
I didn't
standing
even notice her.
up on the podium.
I said I didn't notice her at all. That's kind of funny.
Oh, yeah, she's there, but she's off to the side.
Yeah, fair enough. So the minister does the typical, we must ask if there is anyone present who knows why these two should not be wed. Let them speak now. And the door slams open at the rear of the church. And Laura, you better believe it, Buster. And the script says the color drains from Remington's face as all eyes turn to see Laura storming up the aisle, marching into the altar, spitting blood. And she attacks him. You fraud, you liar. And he tells the minister, unbalanced cousin. She lunges for his throat. You double-dealing snake. He scoops her up over his shoulder. And I don't understand this question. Wouldn't happen to have any wet sheets, would you? What does that mean?
I think in the past, when people were hysterical and they didn't have a straitjacket, they would use wet sheets to wrap them in, because I guess if they're wet and you wrap them tight, they're more difficult to get out of. I don't know.
Yeah, I was confused by that line. But either way, she's still yelling, blood test, tuxedo, Ilsa London. He tends to babble when she gets excited. Be right back. He throws her over his shoulder and then he smacks her butt, which, I mean, again, he has to know at this point that this is not funny to her. Like, I think this is one of the most blatant sort of character assassinations for him, because we've seen him torment her for fun. We've seen him be amused by, like, Steele blushing when with the magazine and all that stuff. But this is like taking it to another level. She is.
Well, I don't think he smacks her butt as much as he
hits it.
He's grabbing her to try to keep her from throwing herself back and escaping.
Either way, like
the whole grab her, throw her over your shoulders and carry her off, kicking and
he's
screaming.
Delighting in how upset she is. He seems amused by it, not bothered by how upset she is. He, unbalanced cousin. That it's played off as comedy, but it's really, really not funny in any way. Like, he takes her into the side room, he locks her in the closet, and she's still yelling, obviously, and he just he shuts the door, he puts a couch and a table against it, she's yelling to let her out. He goes back to the door and says, someday we'll laugh at this. Unlikely. I don't see this as something that Laura's ever going to be like, oh, remember that time you tried to marry a hooker and didn't tell me and then put me in a closet? It's so funny. I don't see that being something they sit down and share a laugh about.
No.
So, yeah, he hurries back to the minister. And then he says to the minister, don't worry, she exhausts easily. She'll be down to a dull whimper in moments. Shall we continue? Ouch. Like, ugh. The officiant looks unsure, but says very well and repeats the line of requesting anyone who knows any reason they shouldn't be married. And stop the wedding, Keyes.
Yes.
And everybody turns and looks at Norman Keyes, cigar in hand. Estelle Becker, they charge up the aisle. He says this marriage is a complete fraud, just like the groom. And Norman Keyes, Vigilance Insurance. And she introduces herself as, and this is the first time where she actually says what she does, I think. Because all she said before was
she basically hasn't talked to anybody other than Keyes in the corridor.
And she says her name and says she's from Immigration and Naturalization Services. With a knowing smile, she says to Steele that it's nice to see him again. Keyes says he knew he would try to pull something like this, and Steele claims not to know what he's talking about. Keyes tells him the bride is nothing but a 2-bit tramp with a rap sheet a mile long. And her friends all yell boo from the pews. Clarissa tells Norman, watch it, Baldy. And Estelle tells Steele that, as she has already told him in their first interview, a marriage of convenience cannot be used to establish residency. He insists that it's not a marriage of convenience, that he is deeply, deeply in love with this young lady. He kisses Clarissa very passionately, which is apparently enough to convince Estelle, but not Keyes. And I have to say, as much as I like Estelle, and I do like her, she's not the sharpest tool in the shed.
Well, she probably knows what's going on, but she probably doesn't have the authority or the evidence to challenge his statement at this point.
Fair enough.
Probably one of those, I know you're lying, you know you're lying, you know I know you're lying, and, one of those things, and I can't do anything about it right now, but I'll get you in the end because I know, and you know that I know, and I know that you know that I know that you know.
We've got Laura, who has managed to get out of the closet, and she's piled the furniture up, and she's kind of looking out this window that's at the top of the door, and this is where she sees them kissing. And she just lets out this cry of dismay, and I feel so bad for her because, this is awful for her. She doesn't know what's going on at this point. She literally has no clue why he's marrying this person. Just that he lied to her, he's run off with her, and now he's shoved her in this room. Yeah. Estelle says she's satisfied for the moment, and the officiant agrees that they have his vote. Keyes protests, saying that they're as phony as a pair of $3 bills. Steele holds Clarissa closer and says, if you don't mind, Norman. Points at Steele and says, this isn't over, before walking away. The officiant says they can jump ahead in the interest of time. I now pronounce you. Here's my question. If technically the marriage ceremony is a formality, correct? If you've signed the marriage license, does it matter whether or not the minister has? Because not everybody gets married in a church.
They've got to have 3 more signatures before it's official.
Yeah, okay, that's my
the minister
point.
and 2 witnesses.
Yeah, so okay, fair enough.
And depending on the minister and depending on the witnesses, they could say, well, you never got to the point of saying, now, bang, this is the point from here on out, you are man and wife. You're right. In a practical sense, they could just say, okay, yeah, here we go, sign it. Yeah, it's good, it's done. But technically speaking, if any one of those 3 wants to say, no,
fair enough.
It ain't.
He goes to say, I now pronounce you, and then, boss, we've got big trouble. And Mildred is at the door.
Oh, Mildred, can't this wait?
She says they've got Alessandra, and then seeing the full picture in front of her, she asks where Miss Holt is. And a raged cry is heard from behind the door as Laura hulks out and pulls the door open.
Rips it to shreds.
Yeah, like I said, she hulks, the Incredible Hulk. Steele tells Laura she's just in time, and she asks what. Mildred grabs Steele's arm and says that Alessandra's been shanghaied. She grabs Laura's too, and they run out the door, followed by Clarissa and her friends, who are throwing rice at the not-so-happy couple. Steele promises to be back as they push him into the car, and Clarissa tells her friends, not now. The limo then peels out of the parking lot with the just married sign on the back. And again, no Fred to be seen. Laura's driving.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So weird. We've got the limo done up with crepe paper streamers and strings of tin cans and a just married sign. Laura gets in the driver's seat as Mildred and Remington get in the back. Clarissa and her friends, I'm trying to find the description of her driving. As a furious Laura drives recklessly, Remington and Mildred in the back. Laura floors it and passes a car, ducking back into her lane shortly before oncoming traffic passes by, and then she yells, "Out of the road, bozo!" This is her exuberant driving that...
yes, she's going to teach that road a lesson.
Yeah, exactly. And Steele asks Laura to slow down a tad, and Laura replies, "She knows how to drive. She is an excellent driver." No, but I don't think anyone's willing to challenge her at this point. So
no, no.
I think most of the time she is, but when she's pissed off like this, it's better to just sit back and hold on to something.
Yes. Wait for the ride to get over.
Yeah, she tells Mildred to continue, but Mildred, however, wants to know more about the wedding. Steele says it's a Byzantine tale, and Laura cuts him off, saying it's one they can chat about when the case is over, asking Mildred what happened at Unidac. Mildred tells him that after she ditched Burnett's body, she went back to the office, but Alessandra was gone. Frustrated, Laura says she thinks she knows who has her. And then we get an office, and Lyle is basically interrogating poor Alessandra. She looks terrified, and she's saying, "I don't know anything about Project Omega." Payroll supervisor insists that she's lying. She says she doesn't know anything at Unidac, and I love this. "I'm just a flunky, understand? A cog, a cipher. Have you read Kafka?"
Has anybody read Kafka?
I don't think so. So yeah, and then as we see this, we see the limo racing up to the Unidac building, the three of them getting out, and then as they do that, security officers start to chase them. Cut back to the office. Lyle is still grilling Alessandra, demanding to know where Burnett's body is. I think it was is it the building coordinator or the building facilitator, the other guy? I'm trying to remember which one he is. Let me see here. It'll say in the script, I'm sure. It doesn't. Okay, cool. Yeah, the other guy who's standing there, whoever he is. I'm trying to find where I am now. Yeah, I'm lost. She insists they know. Anyway, so the payroll supervisor asks it's the guy. He asks where Remington Steele is. There we go. She insists that she doesn't know to both those questions, and eventually Lyle says he believes her. This is not good. He straightens up, he pulls out a gun, and begins to affix that you're
yes.
You're gonna love this. The silencer. That isn't really a silencer.
Yes.
I put that in my notes, saying, in which case there's no need for further discussion. Oof. Yeah. If you have nothing to offer, then you're pretty much no longer needed.
Yeah.
That's not good. So then we cut back to Remington, Laura, and Mildred. They're pursued by the guards. And then suddenly there's more guards in front of them, and they basically find this electric cart passing by, and Steele bumps the guy off and jumps into the driver's seat, and it says, "Why walk when you can ride?" And I have to say, I doubt that those carts could go faster. I could go faster than those carts.
Well, and again, this is a callback to License to Steal.
Yes, true. Actually, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that. But yeah, they're coming full circle here. But we see, according to the script, it says Laura and Mildred hop on, and Remington floors it down the corridor, forcing the two oncoming guards and the other employees to leap out of the way as Remington zigzags onwards. As Remington zips around a corner, Laura checks an unfolded map, which gets in Remington's way. This is quite funny. This map in his face is pretty hilarious. And you're right, it does call back to the first episode. It also, and I mean, this was made later, but Tomorrow Never Dies, there's a very similar scene where Bond is on a motorcycle and he's handcuffed to Michelle Yeoh's character, and they're kind of like trying to navigate. And she tries to like move in front of him and switch over, but then she gets in his way and he can't see. So, yeah. So she's checking the map, and suddenly he looks up, spots an office door marked security, Lyle Andrews, director, and forces the steering wheel that way. The cart bursts through the door, and as the conspirators scatter to avoid our trio on the cart, in the collision, Andrews loses his gun. Steele picks it up, and panicked, he takes advantage of the confusion to run out the door. The two security guards arrive, and he points out the remaining conspirators and says, "We're from Blue Division, Project Zeta Beta Tau, red flag, green clearance, yellow zone, arrest these people."
Yes.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Oh, and can I just say, Alessandra, nice sweater.
Yes. Yes, it is a nice sweater. This is a good episode for you. You got the glasses, you got the wedding dress, you got the sweater. Meanwhile, poor Laura has an outfit that is degrading as the episode progresses.
That's right.
That's not good. As the cops do, he says there's something reassuring about bureaucracy. Laura says, let's get Andrews. They go after him. Outside, we see Lyle making a run for it across the grounds as Laura catches up. And the script, it basically says that Laura and Remington emerge a beat later, run after him. A determined Laura passes Remington, who, not seeing the point in hurrying since he has Andrews' gun, lets Laura get to Andrews first. Laura catches up with Andrews, brings him down with a flying tackle. Together, they go rolling in a shallow pool of filthy water. I would say that's mud. That's a giant mud puddle.
Yes.
And it says Laura notices Remington just standing by, taking pains not to get his immaculate tux soiled from all the splashing. And this scene, I think, is one of the scenes that makes people the angriest, because, and this is what my notes say, okay? As if she leaps on him, the two of them land in a huge mud puddle. He tries to grab Laura, and they roll around, each trying to get the upper hand. Steele arrives, and like the biggest douche canoe on the planet, would rather stand back and watch Laura get physically attacked than get his suit dirty. Like, that is crappy. That is a crappy thing to do. This man is literally trying to kill her, and he's just watching.
Yeah.
I can't even, this is the guy that threw, that in Red Holt Steele, right, went out after Vekmer and shoved him against the tree or whatever it was and threatened his life. Like, this is a guy who, anytime anybody comes after Laura or tries to hurt Laura, he's there. And now he's comedically watching as she's as this guy's trying to drown her and strangle her. He has his hands around her throat at one point. How is this funny? Right? He rolls on top of her and literally begins to strangle her. He sits there and he's laughing. And in my notes, I said, having presumably been taken over by aliens. She pleads with him to jump in at any time, and he grins and says she's doing just fine as he attempts to drown her. And eventually, as he's got her face pressed into the water, he gets annoyed that he has to intervene, and he picks up a large piece of wood. In the script, it says the butt of his gun, but he hits Lyle, knocks him out, and then grins. Teamwork, eh? Laura, like the viewer, is not impressed.
I think I may have an explanation for this. I'm not saying that it excuses it. I'm in the context of the story, in the context of the characters. I'm just saying that I think I might have an idea where the inspiration for the whole scene came from. And this is a reference to my earlier introductory line. This is very much reminds me of a scene from Support Your Local Sheriff with James Garner and Joan Hackett, because she is in the middle of a mud puddle fighting with some guys. Garner's character is standing off to the side, nice suit. He's got a tin plate of food, and he's just standing there eating it and watching. And at one point, one of the combatants is thrown up onto the boardwalk next to him, and he reaches over and grabs a 2x4 and hands it to the man to take back in and use in the fight. It doesn't parallel the scene that we have in this episode very closely in terms of the sequence of events and such as that, but the overall feel of it reminds me always, every time I see it, reminds me of that scene from Support Your Local Sheriff. And I have to wonder if that was not where somebody, I love this scene, let's work it in here.
Yeah, I mean,
I admit that it makes Steele look
makes him look awful.
Yeah, it's not a
it just makes
it's
him
not
look
an
awful.
impressive look for him, because he should be getting in there helping her, but
yeah.
I think that's kind of where the whole idea for the scene came from.
Well, I mean, I'm going to make a Buffy reference because that's what I do. And this is there was a similar scene in Buffy, only the context obviously in Buffy is going to be a bit different, right? Because Buffy's a slayer and this kind of fighting thing is her job. there's a scene in Buffy where she's fighting a bad guy, and Angel shows up to help her, and he basically, like, she's engaged in this really fierce battle. He offers to help her, and she kind of says, "This is something I have to do on my own," and he's like, "Yeah, okay," and he lets her go and fight him. He stands back to watch, and he kind of folds his arms over his chest and says, "I never get tired of watching this." And it's, on his part, it's more about his confidence in her as a fighter. The fact that she has said, like, "I need to do this on my own." He's there for backup if she needs it, and he's proud of how strong and resilient she is. That's not this. This is not that. Laura is asking him to help her, and he just ignores her until he realizes, "Oh, crap, she's going to die. I better do something." Ugh, it's gross. It is just gross. So
yeah, I mean, you could argue that he thought that she was doing fine and she could bring it to a conclusion on her own, but then he realized that she couldn't. But yeah, it's just he as soon as she hit the mud puddle with the guy,
that's where he should have run up, pulled the guy off her.
Away.
Yeah, there's no excuse. And so we've got the next scene. Again, they're in the president's office, and it says, reveals Remington and Laura standing opposite him across the desk where Drury sits. Laura is a mess from her mud bath. Remington remains immaculate. So that's the script direction there. He says he's amazed by the whole story, and Laura tells him that as far as they can piece together, there is no Project Omega. Steele adds that there is a phony room, phony employees. It's all part of a phantom division within Unidac. Laura adds that it was all created by a few key personnel who knew how to manipulate the bureaucracy. Drury angrily says that he knew his company had gotten a little top-heavy in recent years, but he never dreamed somebody could pull off something like this. Stunned, he asks, "Omega is a total fake?"
Okay, now right here, that every time it's like, okay, he knew it. He was in on it.
Also my thought, because I was like, no, you can't.
It's just, it's not just the denial of knowledge. It's the way he puts it.
Yeah.
Oh, my company's gotten top heavy. I would have never have dreamed.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
he's in
convenient.
On it. He's gonna let Andrews and company be run over by the bus, and if he has to, he'll get in and drive it himself. But yeah, he's.
I think that if there had been more time in the episode, that would have been a reveal as well. But they obviously didn't have that kind of time. So Laura says everything
because they got to get on to more important things.
Yeah, everything except the money. And Steele tells him that Omega was budgeted at $25 million, and half of that was from a government grant. There, I just wrote that wrong. Laura tells him that was what the late Mr. Burnett stumbled onto. Millions paid to people on projects he couldn't verify. Steele jokes that the poor sod violated the first rule of corporate existence. Drury asks what that is, and Steele smiles and says, "Cover your behind and don't ask questions."
That's right.
It's true. He grabs Laura's hand and says if Drury doesn't mind, they have a wedding to attend. Drury asks if she would care to freshen up, and it looks like Laura wants to take him up on the offer, but he pulls her out, saying he has handy wipes in the car.
Yeah, the fat lot of good that'll do.
Right. I know. It just, this whole thing, I just... So then we get the car. Laura demands in the limo to know why he's running around in that monkey suit to marry a hooker. Steele tells her when she says it like that, it all sounds rather distasteful. Clarissa is a wonderful girl.
Why did you commit murder? Well, I hate that word. Can you use something? Why did you commit blackmail? I hate that word. Can we call it something else?
Yeah. He says Clarissa is a wonderful girl, and Laura curtly says she didn't know the two of them were dating. Uncomfortable, Steele says it's a bit complicated, and Laura tells him, start at the beginning and work your way up to the altar. Steele says that consulting contract she arranged with Vigilance Insurance. She asks, what about it? He says, it didn't sit too well with our good friend Norman Keyes. He says it seems he took offense on having to report to him on important cases. Impatiently, Laura says she doesn't hear any wedding bells yet, and Steele says that while being a petulant prig, he informed immigration that he was in the country illegally. And again, my God, I don't know how many times I can say, does he want to die? But he starts to say, now I know you were only trying to help when you gave me that passport, but really? You're going to blame
me?
we're going to shift the blame to Laura.
Sure.
We're going to do that now. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. That's some top level gaslighting with a side of douchebaggery. I'm sorry, but it's just not like so yeah, he doesn't get very far. Incredulous, she asks, "Are you implying this is somehow my fault?" He tells her, "No, don't punish yourself. He bears no grudge." And again, I know this is meant to be funny, but this is obviously like he has to know that this conversation was never going to go well.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than be upfront and honest about it and say, listen, I was panicked, I didn't know what to do, and I did this. He's trying to deflect it back on her
Mm-hmm.
to avoid, I don't know what he thinks he's trying to avoid, but he's not avoiding it. He's just making it worse.
Well, he's trying to deflect Laura's anger back onto herself.
Yeah, which is
by
crappy.
trying to, as you said, gaslight her, present it as if, well, I wouldn't have had to do this if you hadn't done this. So really, you can't be mad at me for just simply dealing with the situation that you created.
Yeah,
that's the approach here. It's the wrong approach.
So this is what we would call DARVO. This is an acronym that stands for deny
attack. Is that
attack.
a medication?
No. No, it's an actual psychiatry term, DARVO. It's an acronym. It stands for Deny, Attack, and Reverse Victim and Offender. It is a common manipulation and blame shifting tactic used by perpetrators, such as, it says abusers or toxic individuals, but anything, when confronted with their wrongful behavior. The strategy unfolds in 3 steps. Deny. The offender denies the wrongdoing or abuse ever happened. Attack. The offender attacks the credibility, character, or sanity of the person confronting them. And then reverse victim and offender. The offender twists the narrative so that they become the victim while painting the original victim as the aggressor. DARVO.
So
he's basically turning this
like
around.
if you go to a concert, a Coldplay concert, and you get caught on the kiss
yes,
cam,
exactly.
You blame you blame Coldplay.
I mean, the first mistake was going to a Coldplay concert, but other than the second thing, like, sorry, I'm not a Coldplay fan. I apologize if they're out there, but yeah, exactly. Like this is classic DARVO, and he's basically trying to turn this around on her, and she's not buying it. She reminds him that he was stranded in London, a man without a country, and that passport got him back into the country, and calls him a lousy ingrate. Now, here's the thing. Obviously, that passport was illegal. Mm-hmm. She and Mildred got it for him to get him back into the country, and he wasn't complaining about it then. I'm not saying that parts of what has happened she didn't contribute to, because she did. Mm-hmm. But his marrying Clarissa and lying to her about the situation, that's all on him. That is 1,000% on him. Mm-hmm. Situation with immigration, cool. You could put some fault on, the passport, their actions, whatever. But his behavior, his reaction to the situation, ugh. He then tells her it's fairly sweet of her to apologize, but there's no need.
It's you may not be to blame for the situation, but you are responsible, or you may not be responsible for the situation, but you are responsible for how you respond to it.
Yes,
and
exactly.
That's where he's blown it.
Yeah, 100%. He tells her, like I said, sweet of her to apologize, no need. The important thing is to get him to the church. She's had enough. She demands he stop the car and let her out. He says he's on a rather tight schedule. The best he can do is slow down. So she reaches out and takes the keys out of the ignition. He protests as the car slows to a stop.
No. I don't think, because that would lock the steering. I don't think she would do that, not if she was smart, and certainly. Oh, the other thing is you couldn't take him out if the car's in drive. I don't believe it. You couldn't because you couldn't get it to the park position on the ignition switch. There's park, then there's accessory, and then there's on drive. And you could get it to the accessory, but you couldn't get it into the park position. So yeah, you couldn't pull the keys out. You could turn the engine off, but you couldn't pull the keys out because that would. It's got mechanisms to prevent you from doing that while it's in gear.
Yeah.
And if you could, it would just lock up the steering, and it's just no.
We're just gonna waive this.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
she
fine.
grabs the keys. She storms away. He frantically scrambles after her and tells her that you don't seem to grasp the gravity of the situation. If I'm not married to an American citizen by 6 o'clock this evening, I'll be thrown out of the country. And she's still incredulous that he even intends to go through with it. Says, you're just going to waltz down the aisle with the happy hooker? And he says, Laura, this is no time to be jealous. And she says, I'm not jealous. I'm angry. Can't you tell the difference? I don't know if those two are mutually exclusive. I think there's maybe some of both of that in there. I think she realizes that he's not really interested in Clarissa. I don't think that she honestly thinks that he is in love with Clarissa now that she knows the extent of the situation. But I do think that the jealousy is probably that he didn't come to her, that he went to someone else.
Well, I'd say it's less jealousy than anger, much more anger than jealousy.
More anger, for sure.
Because first of all, he didn't come to her. He didn't trust her with the information. She's going to have to deal with the ramifications of this in so many ways.
Yeah, for sure.
That seriously is going to impact the agency. So
yeah, it's just it's all like he says, why are you angry? I'm the one who's going to be deported. And then she says, for some cockeyed reason, I expected less from you. And he's confused by this. Less what? Less trickery, less deceit, less of everything that makes me doubt your feelings for me. And I agree, because all of what we've seen from season 4 is the two of them having important conversations and getting closer to one another, and him being honest about his feelings, and the two of them like having actual talks that they should have been having all this time. And so she's finally begun to let her guard down and expect that when something major like this happens, he's just going to be honest about it. And he should have been honest about it. He should have come to her and said, hey, this is happening. I need you to help me.
Mm-hmm. However, as an explanation, not as a defense, when people get into stressful situations where they, let's say, panic because their future is in doubt, whether it be completely in doubt, as in you're going to die, or in doubt from the standpoint of your entire life is going to be destroyed and you're going to be left, trying to pick up the pieces, people revert. They revert to what they have done in the past, their behavior from the past, that you may have changed in a lot of ways, but that's still there. That was still your go-to behavior. And that is what you're going to, in most cases, do, is revert back to that behavior because it's worked for you in the past. You're not necessarily sure, what the new paradigm is going to do for you. You don't know if it's going to resolve the situation or just make it worse, but you know that this worked for you in the past. And so that's how that's how you behave.
Yeah. I think too, it partly might have to do with his own past, where he's never had anybody that he could rely on when things get dicey. He's always had to figure it out himself. Mm-hmm. And so in his mind, but again, this is him reverting to his prior behavior that has always been his instinctive reaction. And those instincts, even though he's working on them, those instincts come back in this type of situation because that's the kind of trigger. It's just like somebody who's dealing with alcoholism and they're making progress, but something happens and it kicks them right back into that. Yeah.
That's the trigger that kicks them back into their past behavior.
The problem with this past behavior, though, is that this is literally what has A, kept them apart for 4 years, and B, is going to, as you said, it's going to impact her too. It's not just him. It's if they find out that she was the one who got the phony passport, that she could end up in jail. Like, that's fraud on a big level. So it's
but like I said, I wasn't defending the behavior. I was just explaining it.
Yeah, no, I for sure. And then he says, "Would you have married me?" And she says, "Of course not." And then he says, "I wouldn't have asked."
Okay, why not? I mean, that was too quick a response from her.
I think I
understand she's angry, and so that might have been her anger response of, well, from the standpoint of, no, of course I wouldn't marry you now that I know what's happened. But I think it's just her, well, of course not. that's just...
I think
That's
she means... I think it was more... Her response was more about, I wouldn't have married you just to solve your immigration problem. I don't think she's saying she wouldn't have married him. I think she's saying that she wouldn't want to be marrying him just to keep him in the country. Like, she would want him to ask her just to ask her. And this is where he's kind of between a rock and a hard place. And I sort of have, I don't want to say some sympathy, but some understanding of why he did this, because he had to have known that if he came to her with this problem and said, I want to marry you, and he meant it, she would never believe or trust that he was actually asking to marry her because he genuinely wanted to marry her. She would always in the back of her mind wonder, well, would he have done this if it weren't for immigration forcing his hand? Like, is this real, or is this...
But that wasn't her answer, though. Her answer was, no, of course not. I would not marry you if you had asked me. And granted, his question was not, the way it was worded was not specific to this situation. And
no, but contextually, her response would be.
But there's a disconnect between the context of what he's asking and the context of what she's answering, though, is the thing. And
I think they're both on the same page there.
Well, I think there's a little bit of a mismatch there. But I think the problem is that her answer was, of course not, I would not have married you. Not, I wouldn't have married you for that reason.
Well, and this is...
Or something to focus her answer on being, I wouldn't do this to help you evade the legal issues. But, you know, if you were serious and circumstances were different, I might marry you. I might have married you. But in the meantime, we could have worked this out some other way.
Well,
it was just, no. Would you have married me? No, absolutely not. Bang.
But this is what happens when
that option is over forever.
This is what happens, though, when you're arguing with someone, is that you say something and your meaning doesn't always translate the way you mean it to. And I think as viewers, we are meant to assume that that's what she meant. But and his response is responding to what you just said, where he's not sure if she just means she would never marry him or she wouldn't marry him under these particular circumstances. So he responds with hurt when he says, I wouldn't have asked. And that's, then he kind of like, she says, I knew if we worked at it hard enough, we'd find something to agree on. Then he says, I couldn't ask you to be part of a ploy, a sham, an arrangement. And I agree that probably crossed his mind, that was probably one of the reasons why he didn't come to her and say, hey, we need to do this, because he would know that she would not seriously believe that he wanted to, like, there'd always be doubt about why they were married, why they were together. She responds by saying, so he shopped around and got the best deal in town and bought Clarissa. And he says, rent it, actually. In fact, I'm paying by the hour. So if you don't mind, I really do need those car keys. He makes a lunch for her as the limo phone rings. And this is also the point where I'm like, can he not see that this is not going to work now? Laura knows about it. I don't know. He's got to see that this option is slipping away. But he's clinging to it.
What is that? That there's a term for what I'm thinking of, and it's commonly used in business, where people will say, we have invested so much money in this project.
Sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah. We've invested so much, we can't stop investing in it now. Well, it's not going to succeed. Yeah, but if we've got to see it through. Well, we know where it's going to go. We know where it's going to end. It's going to fail, but we've got to. And that's what he's doing here. This is his only plan. Yeah. He's already invested all this time, money, effort, and dare I say, planning into it. And it's fallen apart at his feet. Yeah. But it's his only plan, and he's got to try and follow it through.
And then the phone rings, right? They go back to the limo, the phone rings, they freeze. Then he picks it up, and Clarissa on the other end, she tells him she's sorry. Steele tells her, don't be, I'm on my way. She asks him to contact the minister because she's only allowed one phone call. Steele doesn't like the sound of that, and he says that has a very ominous ring to it. He asks where she is, and the camera pans back, and we see she is in a jail cell. along with all of her cohorts. She tells him that Keyes had her busted for soliciting, and Steele groans and he says, if death can take a holiday, why can't you? And innocently, she says, all she did was give him her business card. Ew. No. Clarissa, you can say no to some clients. You can do better, okay? Like, that's, you don't have, no, you're not that desperate. You can't be. No.
Yeah.
She then says,
I just that scene of her in the jail cell, wearing the wedding dress in the jail cell. It's just. I'm
glad somebody's finding some enjoyment from this. Sadly, she says she has to go as it's time for her strip search.
I'm sorry. They would not. That's got to be optional.
Yeah.
and she's opted into that.
Yeah, for sure. She hangs up and Steele groans again, telling a very satisfied looking Laura that Clarissa's in the clink. She asks, what now? And he says, well, once I'm settled somewhere, will you come and visit me? With all these excursion fares these days, you can travel anywhere for about $99. And that's it? You're just giving up? And he says, well, putting aside the lack of a bride, there are certain legal niceties that marriage cannot be overcome in 1 hour and 10 minutes. About marriage, sorry. Indignant, she tells him that he's the Duke of Deception. Think of something. So, and this is where I will criticize Laura a bit, okay? Help him. Problem solve it. I know she's mad.
Here's the problem, though. She wouldn't have married him a minute and a half ago because it was deceptive, it was fraudulent. But now, well, you're the Duke of Deception. Let's solve something with deception and fraud. And what are we going to do? Oh, we're going to get married for deception and fraud purposes.
Well, she wouldn't legally marry him. She
thinks she is.
No, she when they're on the boat, she says we've got a phony marriage license, phony blood tests. Like, this is.
Yeah, but she knows that the documentation is phony, but as far as everything else is concerned, it appears to be a legitimate wedding. But even if it's not, she's doing exactly what she just got done saying she would not do.
Well, she wouldn't marry him for real. She's not marrying him for real. She's faking this. They're faking this marriage. This is like
no.
Legally.
Her point of contention was she would not engage in a fraud. Let's go back to Remington's words. Here, let's see. How could I have asked you to be part of a ploy, a scam, an arrangement? So you shopped. So she acknowledges that it was a ploy, a scam, and an arrangement, and she wouldn't have married him to participate in a ploy or a scam or an arrangement. But now, a minute and a half later, she will participate in a ploy and a scam and an arrangement with a faked marriage.
The difference, though, is the legality of the marriage. If
it's a marriage of convenience to satisfy immigration, it's still it's no more valid than a fake marriage.
From a personal level, though, like they're both trying to make this relationship work, and to be asked to marry him only to satisfy immigration, to enter into a legal union with him only to satisfy that's hurtful on a personal level. She will play pretend and not legally marry him on a professional level.
Why couldn't she have done that before?
Because
why didn't she say that? If you had come to me, we could have done a phony thing, and nobody would have known any different. And it's.
I mean, they didn't really have the time in that argument. The phone rang. They got distracted by Clarissa. But either way, I can see the distinction for her being asked to marry him simply to satisfy immigration.
I think it's a false distinction. I think she is just trying to say, well, yeah, I'll go along with it now after I just got done telling you I wouldn't, because somehow I'm going to create the justification in my mind that this is somehow different. If it was a scam before, if it's a scam now and it was a scam before, what difference does it make?
because the reasoning behind, like, if he had come to her and said, listen, I need you to marry me, immigration's coming after me, we need to get married, and he actually meant get married, that would be hurtful to her. The idea that he would only want to marry and actually commit to her in a permanent way to get out of being caught by immigration. If he had come to her and said, listen, immigration's about to catch me, I need to be married to an American citizen, can you help me fake this? I think she would have agreed.
Well, but she knows the marriage license is phony. She knows the blood test results are phony, but she thinks that the captain is actually going to marry them.
No,
she's going along with it, believing that the captain.
No, she asked. She says, doesn't the captain have a legal authority? And he says yes. And then she says, then what are we doing here? And he points out that Juan is not the captain. That's the workaround. So she acquiesces to it
until he tells her that Juan is not the captain. She thinks that it's really the captain who's going to be marrying them. And she's gone along with it up to this point.
No, I think she just didn't think of that up until that point. Like, she's not actually marrying him. She doesn't actually intend to marry him. She almost backs out when she thinks that he's really the captain.
I think it's a distinction that doesn't amount to a hill of beans.
For
fine.
For her, it would. I think it really would for her. Given all of her issues with commitment and him and whether or not he actually cares, to be asked only for the purposes of immigration, that's something I can't. That would be a bridge too far. But I could see her faking it to keep him in the country.
But
and
again,
then,
if he had presented it to her beforehand, she could have said, "Well, fine, let's fake it."
Yeah, if he had, but he didn't. He went off to try to marry Clarissa. he did everything but talk to her.
But he said that he knew it would be a fake and a scam.
Well, he's making an assumption. He's making an assumption about her reaction. He says, how could I expect you to be a part of a fraud, a scam, an arrangement? He's not actually saying, if I had come to you and asked you if you would be a part of this as a fraud, a scam, or an arrangement, would you have done it? He's trying to put that back on her and saying, if I had come to you and you wouldn't have done it. At no point does she actually say that. She just kind of says, so you went and found a hooker instead? Like, that was your solution?
She accepts the argument as presented. She doesn't challenge the argument as presented. She accepts it and then builds on it.
I think she's more focused on pointing out how his decisions were poor decisions. And they were poor decisions. They were stupid. I mean, we don't know what would have happened if he had come to her and actually told her what was going on, but I can assume that had he presented the plan, she's done crazier things to get out of stuff. She invented an imaginary boss. But he didn't. The fact that he didn't trust her enough with his problem to help solve it, however they solved it, is enough to kind of cancel out any goodwill at this point. She's pretty much done.
Except that what happens later on, Juan is giving them the spiel in Spanish. I do, they kiss. And she asks, how are we supposed to keep up this scam for 2 years? And he says, by being the happiest married couple in America. And she says, but we're not really married, you conniving con man.
Not true.
So she's angry that it's a con. And she's angry that he's pulled her into a con.
She's angry. She's not angry because they're not really married. She's angry that she's now having to add to her, her fake life by putting this added complication on top of what already they're hiding. Like, this is a house of cards.
But her attitude here is as if I didn't know that we were going to have to fake being married.
Well, so
she, according to you, her argument is that she didn't want to participate in a real marriage that was done under false pretenses. But now here she's saying that she didn't realize that she was going to have to fake a marriage.
Well, I don't think she realized she was going to have to fake it. I don't think she realized she was going to have to fake it for 2 years. A lot of people don't know what the parameters are when it comes to getting a spouse. Like, I sponsored my spouse into the country. Most people don't realize that in Canada, at least, when you sponsor a spouse into the country, you are legally and financially responsible for that person for the first 5 years, I believe it is. And even if you get a divorce in that time, you're still financially responsible for them. If he didn't have a job, I would have to pay his bills. You're not able to apply for any social services. If I had lost my job, I couldn't have applied for employment insurance. There's a lot of stuff that they don't tell you about what that means. And I don't think Laura really understood the extent of how they were going to have to pretend in order to keep.
She is a detective, and
she's filthy. She's been attacked. She's been through a wind tunnel. She's pissed off. And she's had zero time to think about anything beyond what happens next. There's no way she's going to know what.
I think she should have had the knowledge of what would have been involved in this, because as a detective, she's dealing with legal issues all the time. And you can't tell me that they have never had a case that didn't get her into the proximity of this information where she would have had it available to her knowledge at this point.
I think her rational brain has taken a holiday at this point. She's too. There's too much going on.
I agree with you on that, but not for the same reasons.
There's too much going on. I don't think that would have even crossed her mind. She's just trying to figure out how they're going to get from one moment to the next and get around Keyes and around Becker and figure out what's happening. Like, I don't think she was thinking about what's going to happen after this fake marriage. That being said, we go into the next scene and
eventually get to the next scene. Yeah.
We've got her staring directly into the camera, speaking, I've loved him from the moment I met him. He has all the qualities I admire in a man. She must have choked on this at this point. Honesty, integrity, compassion. Sometimes he seems too good to be real. It's almost as though I invented him. I'd be the happiest woman in the world if I could spend the rest of my life by his side. And then we pull back and we see Estelle Becker, and she's almost in tears. And again, lady, come on. Even if she was willing to kind of look the other way with Clarissa, now he's got another woman that he's going to marry that same day. And you're buying it? You're buying this?
Okay.
It doesn't say much
I'm
for
not
Estelle
going to say
Becker.
that she's the smartest tool in the shed, okay? I'll just leave it at that.
Right? She calls it the most beautiful expression of love she's ever heard, and Laura says it comes straight from the heart, Miss Becker. She says, I want to believe that. I want this all to work out. And then suddenly she kind of stiffens, and then the camera pulls back, and there's a fish writhing on her lap. Steele comes up, plucks the fish from her lap, and tosses it onto another pile of fish. And we see that they are on a fishing trawler, which is, it's tied to the dock. They're seated on a pair of wooden crates while Steele and Mildred stand at the stern. Juan, a young Mexican t-shirt and captain's hat, is at the wheel. The sound of the car draws them all to the dock. As the car screeches to a halt, we see Norman Keyes jump out, and Steele says, time to cast off. And from what the script says, from Juan's bland expression and unmoving countenance, it's clear he doesn't understand what Steele is saying. Vamos, amigo. This gets Juan into action as Remington casts off the last line, and the trawler heads out to sea just as Keyes reaches the edge of the dock. And he, of course, yells, you can't get away with this. It stinks just like those fish. The trawler heads out for open water at a good clip. Keyes' voice rising above the whine of the engine. You can run, but you can't hide. I'll be the last thing you see at night and the first thing you see in the morning. For better or for worse, Steele, you're mine. He looks at Estelle, incurable romantic, hysterical because he can't be my best man. To Laura, shall we, dearest? Yes, my darling. She rises, a complete shambles, fussing with her hair, and says, how do I look? Mildred says, well, they say all brides are beautiful. They link arms, and he leads her lockstep towards Juan. Mildred, kind of watching them, almost teary-eyed herself. And he picks up what I assume is a Bible or something in Spanish. And then she says, you're sure this marriage isn't remotely legal? And he says, Laura, when I make a bargain, I stick to it. And she says, okay, so we have a phony marriage license, forged blood test results, but what about the captain? He still has the authority to marry us. Absolutely correct. Then what are we doing here? Juan's not the captain. Who is he? He cleans fish. Very good at it, actually. And Juan begins to read in Spanish. We hear him say Remington and Laura. Matrimonio, so I'm going to imagine that's matrimony. And he turns towards them, Mildred and Estelle, who are dabbing at their eyes with hankies. And then he says, do you take Laura At least I'm assuming that's what he says. He waits until Remington realizes a response is called for, and he says, see.
First he says, are you going to take her?
Yeah, first he says, I do, and then Juan still waits and realizes, oh, wait, see. And then she asks him, how long do we have to maintain this charade? And Juan starts talking again, and he says, not long, and she realizes that he didn't sound too honest when he said that. How long? Juan's continuing to give his speech in the background, and Steele says 2 years at the outside. 2 years! And then Juan finishes his speech. Again, he waits. Steele kind of nudges her in the ribs, says, your turn, and she says, sí. He then says some stuff in Spanish, which I am assuming is like, by the power invested in me, I now pronounce you, blah, blah, blah. And again, they kind of stand there, and eventually he's kissing noises. And Steele says, I think this is where we plight our troth with a kiss. She asks him, how are we going to keep this up for 2 years? And he says, by being the happiest married couple in America. And as you pointed out, she says, but we're not really married, you conniving con man. And he says, that's exactly what Keyes will be trying to prove, my blushing bride. So he kisses her, and it's clear, like, she's stiff as a board. She is not returning this kiss. But it apparently convinces Mildred and Estelle, because she says, don't you love weddings? And Estelle says, I just hope I can get this one to stand up in my report. And Mildred says, what are you talking about? We're past the 3-mile limit. This is legal as hell. And that line has led some fans to wonder whether or not it actually was legal. I don't think it was, because if the marriage license is phony, then it wouldn't really matter if Steele, like, they've made the argument that because Juan is acting as captain, he still has the authority to marry them. But I don't think that stands up if the marriage license is phony.
Well, was he actually acting as the captain?
Well, and that's the other question.
Was there a captain on the...
Yeah. Was there
actually a captain on the boat? Because if there's a captain on the boat, then he's not acting as the captain. He's just impersonating the captain.
Exactly.
Big difference.
Yeah, and again, like, if it's a phony marriage license, there's no official marriage license. Like, I could go and stand in front of a officiant and say I do, but it doesn't necessarily make it a marriage, right? So I don't think that they actually...
There is also the danger of common law.
True. I don't know how much of that existed in the 80s, but...
Well, I think it's still valid. Now, what I don't know off the top of my head is the parameters. It may vary by state to state, certainly by country to country. But as long as you live, cohabitate, and present as being married for a certain length of time, then legally you're married.
Oh, no, actually, according to this, it did not exist in California in 1986. The state officially abolished domestic common law marriage on January 1st, 1895, and required couples to obtain a marriage license and complete formal solemnization to be legally married. Exceptions to this rule in 1986 included out-of-state recognition. So I guess if they're out in international waters, then that would count.
Well,
or
if the couples, I guess it would depend actually on where they're residing during that period of time.
Yeah.
If they're residing in California, then it wouldn't necessarily be recognized in California. But if they were living in California for a length of time and then they moved to another state, I don't know.
So then she says, like, he takes out an accordion. And like you said, I think that you're right, that Juan isn't acting as captain. There's probably a captain somewhere else on the boat. And I don't think it's actually legal, but there are some people that think, maybe it was. He takes out an accordion. He starts playing it, singing feelings.
Okay, so they'll pay for feelings, but not girls just want to have fun or satisfaction.
I know.
Or insert the title of any of half a dozen other songs here.
Yep, I agree. And it's a terrible rendition. It's not even, Laura says, this is the worst day of my life. He says, how can you say that, Laura? We haven't even hit the honeymoon yet. And that's where it freezes.
That's not real encouraging.
Yeah, I know. I'm definitely going to have some theories on what what was going on in season 5, but okay. Well,
finally got through that one.
Yeah, the shark, and that's where the shark jumped over the boat. And for anyone who doesn't understand that reference, you understand it, right? The jumping the shark reference. Okay.
Yes, happy days.
So Yeah, it's a reference to the show Happy Days, where there was a scene where I think it was the Fonz was on water skis and a shark, and he jumped over a shark on the water skis. And it was just so ridiculous that was sort of deemed the point where the show went downhill. And so it's become a common sort of way of referencing the moment when a TV show or movie franchise kind of loses its steam and begins to decline in quality.
Well, or they do something that is so absolutely ridiculous.
So ridiculous
that they just can't come back from it.
You're not able to. Yeah. So I think this is the point where they've figuratively jumped the shark. It's just, and I will have some theories when we talk about season 5 as to how this could have been done well, which is a tall order, I'm aware, but I think there could have been some ways where they could have made this less unbearable, but unfortunately they didn't go that route. So
yeah,
that's where we freeze. I don't think I need to ask you what your thoughts are overall on this episode. I think we're both in agreement that it's unfortunate.
It had its moments.
It's got some funny stuff with Unidac, but it's pretty bad when the case is the more interesting part. Like when that's the saving grace.
Yeah. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened if Steele had married Clarissa.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost thinking that would have been... I would hope that they wouldn't drag it out for too long. I would hope that they would find a way around it and annul the marriage or what have you. But I would have liked to have seen a couple of episodes where this is not what we wanted.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway,
so on the website, www.SteeleWatching.com, we've got show notes, links to Amazon US and Amazon Canada. There's also links to the merch if you want to buy a shirt. We should have a shirt that said, like, we don't, Bond sucks or something. I don't know. But there are also social media resources and links such as?
Links to follow the podcast for anybody who you want to get interested in it that hasn't been listening up to this point. Links to the official Steele Watching Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram, as well as a link to the Facebook Steele Watchers fan group where we all kind of congregate and hang out and do stuff.
And where people are going to have feelings about this episode. Nothing more than feelings.
Lots and lots of feelings.
Yeah. But, I mean, on the bright side, the next episode is going to be our season 4 top 5 recap, which I know is your...
Which nobody wants.
Absolute favorite.
We've gotten millions of emails saying we don't want to hear this episode. We've even gotten them from other planets. So
you, sir, you lie like a rug. Anyway, I will see you there for that. Booze in hand.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got nothing else.
Nope, me either.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Right, bye-bye.
Well, I'm not going to say anything. It's all up to you. I refuse. I refuse to participate in this fiasco, this farce, this joke of an episode.
He's cute when he doesn't have a choice. Steele Watchers, the moment you have been waiting for.
No, you haven't. You know it. You haven't been.
They have been. You haven't been, but they have been. Our top 5 Remington Steele episodes of all time, because Lord knows we're not doing a top 5 season 5 episode. That just wouldn't work. So,
well, I mean, you could make it work, but it wouldn't work well.
No, it would not work well. So for the entire series, send us your top 5s. Doesn't matter the season, even if it's season 5. We might question your sanity, but hey, you do you. Send them to us around the beginning of October-ish. That's kind of what we're shooting for in terms of when we record this, and we are recording this. Sorry, Eric, it's happening. And hey, maybe even like
Beat
your
me
favorite.
over the head with a hammer.
add in your favorite season as well, just in general. Tell us what your favorite season was and why, and we will have some fun with that. Eric will get drunk, and we will round off the entire series in a fun way. So,
in my defense, when we did the season 4 top 5, I was on pain medication, so that might have affected my ability to speak.
Sure. A likely story.
I was.
Anyway, send us your top 5.
Which further enhanced my inability to speak.
Send them to the email. Eric, would you like to tell them what the email is?
SteeleWatching@yahoo.com. And
there we go.
make some comments. If you just want to send your list, that's fine. But if you want to give us reasons why you chose these, both the episode and your top season, please do so. We will read as much of it as we can. I think we've proven that we don't. Although I have to admit, I missed a fan mail because it was buried. The notice for it was buried in my junk mail for SteeleWatching. And, we get all these emails. You wouldn't believe some of the emails we get. But yes, send it in to SteeleWatching and label it top 5 of all time or something like that. So we can spot it. So there you go.
Thank you. We look forward to it.
Kicking and screaming.